Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 71 of Power Bombshells. Normally, this is the show where we are just two broads talking about the wrestling that we're watching. But today, I have some honorary broads with me because my normal broad is she is in Toronto for Forbidden Door. And so I had some wonderful people who said that they would help me out today, which I truly, truly appreciate. And we actually have another guest coming shortly. But I wanted to welcome Stephen and Jeremy to the show, and thank you guys so much. I know that you guys have been so busy doing shows this week and that you made time to come join me today, so I truly appreciate that.
Well, we're excited to be here. Thanks for having us. And, it's been a tradition that it takes a village to replace Mel anytime she's away. So one person can't do the job. So we're going to have a whole team here filling in for Mel while she's at the show. And it's a silly season for us. And it's so exciting that all these promotions are working together. And we've seen many examples of it between the All Together Again and all this. And then to have this one, the AEW and New Japan, these dream matches. So, yeah, we're doing a lot of shows, but we can't get enough talking about this. We're looking forward to this one.
Sam, without Mel here, we broadsided you. And
you did. You totally did.
And, we got our show Speaking of Strong Style, but a lot of our content actually really overlaps because this show and our show both cover New Japan, but you guys are queens of the fight game media universe, and you cover everything that you possibly can. And I tip my cap to you guys, and I'm glad I finally get a chance to be on the show with you and share some viewpoints and have a great morning. Let's do this.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you guys are here and that we finally worked that out. Maybe we'll definitely have to do it again when Mel is here so we can get the crossover of our shows. So I think, what was it that you said that the show was called, or that you would call this show?
Oh, speaking of the 5-star Power Bombshells.
That's all we get all in there.
We'll have to shorten that hashtag, but we'll make it work.
We'll get there.
I like that name.
a very succinct tweet with a very long hashtag.
Yeah, exactly. So we have some people in the comments already. Brad was saying that his guess for Mel's hat today was if I can get wait, where did this go?
Actually, when you realize it, Steven and I and our other guest are actually the 3 raccoons inside Mel's hat at all times. And now that she's not here, this is what's happened.
Yeah, so we were exposing everything today. That's what
the curtain has been pulled back.
It has been pulled back. Surprise! Yeah, we'll have to see if Mel's wearing a hat at the show today. We'll have to. I know she posted. If you're following Power Bombshells on Instagram, then you will see that Mel has been posting some pictures, and I saw that she posted a picture for her Tim Hortons order today. And so she's not wearing a hat there, but maybe at the show she'll be wearing a hat, and we'll have to. Yeah, Daza. Hopefully she is wearing a hat at the show today to keep it on brand for her.
We saw some pictures on the Discord of I think the match with Tanahashi and Swerve last night that she posted, and I thought it was pretty cool. Like getting a chance to see Tanahashi live. I've done it. It's an experience. The crowd goes wild.
Oh yeah, they were super into him last night. That guy. I guess he's a little over here in the United States. But yeah, it was great to see. And I heard some kind of spoilers for ROH for next week, which I'm really looking forward to. Looks like New Japan is going to be invading ROH, so there should be some good stuff happening there.
I am all about just telling all the spoilers, so do not worry about ruining me about the Ring of Honor stuff. So yeah, if there is a approach that you have on this show, I'm going to go with it. But if you want to just run fast and look at these spoilers, by all means, just lay them on me.
I don't know who some of the matches are against, but I do know that LIJ. There was some LIJ presence on ROH. I know that it's I believe it's Bushi and Hiramu. I think Shingo as well. I think they might be in a trios match. And so I saw that, and I feel like there was one more thing that I saw for Mel. I haven't seen a whole lot. And then I did see that they apparently, I guess, they also filmed Brett said he thinks that me, him, and Nikki are the only ones who watch ROH here. I think you're correct. And maybe some people who are tuning in today for the pre show. So if we may have just
I have an excuse for not watching Ring of Honor live. We have the New Japan beat, and that is a lot of content.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
So
you guys.
We're not on that. It is because we cannot give it the attention it deserves.
No, I completely understand, and I would probably watch it anyway. But I cover ROH for Daily DDT, so I have to watch every week because I do the recaps. And so, and speaking of, we have our third honorary broad. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Sorry for being late.
Sorry for being late.
This guy right here that just joined us is the reason that I don't have time to watch Ring of Honor, because not only am I into All Japan or New Japan and All Japan, he's gotten me into Stardom like crazy on a full-time basis. So there's so much good stuff right now. It's such a fun time to be a wrestling fan. So Scott, man, have you slept at all? There was a Stardom pay-per-view earlier this morning.
I got 3 hours or so.
All right.
3 hours, woke up, recorded. Now I'm here to record again.
We in the industry call that a siesta fiesta.
I'm so glad that you were able to get in a little siesta and could come join us, because I know that you overbooked yourself. Because I watched the Fight Game, the show that you guys did with Garrett, where he told everybody, he spoiled the viewers on who was coming on the show today, minus Steven. And then he said, "Don't tell Sam," which made me laugh really hard. I thought it was great.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Y'all had some really good conversations. I'm sure some of that will probably overlap with some of the things I was going to talk about. And then, of course, it's just unavoidable when you're doing, a show like this, that you got to talk about these things. So, but I'm so glad that you guys are here today. And over in the comments, they're talking about Athena's reign, which we will get to. I guess we'll start with the 0 Hour. And since we don't know the order of 0 Hour, I guess we can just start with Athena and Billy Starks, because their photo is here.
There they are.
So the Owen Hart Cup tournament started on Rampage on the women's side of things, with Sky Blue getting the win over Anna Jay in her hometown of Chicago. And then last night we had Willow versus Nyla, and Willow got the win there, and she will be facing, I believe, the winner of this matchup. And and so I wanted to get your thoughts on what you thought about these two being in the tournament and putting the tournament show on the 0 Hour pre-show. And I guess, Scott, we'll start with you.
Deserved. I think that's my best way to say it. Athena only being on Ring of Honor, I think, is a crime, because Claudia is able to be on AEW television, so why can Athena not be? And I think she's going to be on Collision moving forward. It feels like that, right? With the Owen Hart Foundation tournament being, I think, only on that show. At least that's what it feels like. And she's facing who I think is the best women's American prospect in wrestling, Billy Starks, who's only gotten better and better and better with every bigger opportunity. I think this was one of your best ways to kind of get a Joshi flavor on here. Athena, of course, calling herself the American Joshi. Billy Starks wrestling in TJPW last year. It was kind of a makeup in a lot of sense, but I think this match is going to be really good. Wish it wasn't on 0 Hour, but what am I gonna do? It'll be a really good way to sell the pay-per-view for those who may be women's wrestling fans, like myself.
Yeah, agreed. So, Steven, what do you think about this one?
I'm excited about it too. I think it sets up a very interesting matchup between two champions, Willow and Athena. I think Athena is going to win. Just my thought on that. And I'm glad she's having this run. She's from this area. I'm in Austin, Texas. And she worked this area a long time before she went up to WWE. And so I got to see her quite a bit in local shows. And she was terrific then. And seeing her having that little bit of a run in NXT where they did push her and then it kind of faded out, seeing her get this kind of showcase with Ring of Honor and AEW has been very gratifying. So I'm hoping that she gets the win, and then I think she and Willow can really have a good match there. I'm curious how that's going to be booked with the strong champion against the ROH champion. Maybe they'll have the upset here and have Billy to set up a title match. That's always possible, and a good way to use these tournaments to set up possible challengers. But should be a really nice match on the card here. And I mean, it's a loaded night. And if you can look good on a night like this, then it'll help your career quite a bit.
Absolutely. Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
I sincerely hope this gets time looking at this card. That is an X factor with all this, that we are hypothetically looking at, at least hoping for a 5-minute match, given all things, like optimistically a 5-minute match. If we get 3 and Athena is just dominant and it's just like an opportunity for Billy Starkz as a reward to be on a 0 hour, but she's more of a jobber than a prospect, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. And I don't know how I'm going to feel about the discourse about that. Is the opportunity better than the showing? That's going to be the debate after. As for the
Owen Hart point.
Yeah. And it's just, we have a lot of talent in this Owen Hart tournament. And the fact that you have Athena and Willow Nightingale like on a collision course potentially, or Billy Stark getting an opportunity and then going through Willow Nightingale, who she shouldn't be beating either because of the momentum that Willow Nightingale has, that's going to be an interesting booking dynamic that Tony doesn't quite want to go all the way with Willow Nightingale. That's the vibe that I'm getting. Every opportunity that he has to just like, hey, you have lightning in a bottle, go with it now.
Yeah.
Like, hit the button, do it now. He's not doing it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, come on, dude. She's right there.
Yeah.
So, and then you got the other side of the bracket, and it just feels much more like chalk. You can watch Dynamite, figure out where it's going.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's that other side that is curious, even though you feel like you just know how the way this is going to go.
Yeah, and I was really surprised to see Athena in this tournament. Not that it's not deserved, but because of what she's doing in ROH. So for those of you who are not following ROH at all, Athena just got her 27th straight win on Thursday. Oh. She will likely get number 28 here. I'm assuming she gets the 30 within the tournament, which I thought is really interesting booking. Are they going to give her 30th win and have her win the entire tournament? So because there would be, I believe, 2 matches after this if she advances. So that would give her 29 and 30 would come in the tournament, I believe, if I am doing my math correctly. So I thought that was, because I would love to see Billy win here, but Athena has been so dominant, and that's been her thing, and she has faced Willow already for the ROH title. They had a really excellent match, and so I do see that match happening. I think Athena's. I'm leaning toward Athena winning the whole thing to keep her record intact. Is where I think they're going with this. Which I don't know that it's not necessarily a terrible idea, but I just really. I feel like they could have just taken Athena. Not that she shouldn't be in the tournament, but with the way they've been booking her, I would not have put Athena in this tournament to have her. Unless that's what they wanted was 30th win. She wins the Owen. She has the title because Death Before Dishonor is on the 21st. So she's going to go. So then she goes into the pay-per-view, with her 30th win, her title, and the Owen. So could be what they're doing. I don't know. They made the point on Thursday, I believe, as Ian Riccaboni said, I don't believe the person who can beat Willow is in AEW or ROH currently, which makes me wonder if they are bringing in Jordan Grace for her.
Ooh. That would
That's what I'm wondering. I could be off with that, but since Jordan's out there as a free agent and has been rumored to maybe coming. I mean, do you put Jordan Grace on ROH? I guess that would be some people's argument. She's not on TV. However, the women's division in ROH is much stronger than the way they book the women in AEW right now. So I could see maybe they put Jordan there for a little bit. Maybe she is the one to dethrone Athena, and then maybe they put her on Collision. So it would be kind of interesting. But Athena's had an incredible run and not enough people are talking about it. And I know it's because she's on ROH, but I will sing her praises all day long.
I can testify that from a very long time that this show has been advocating for her to get the opportunity that she has had up to this point, that you give Athena the ball. She had a very raw deal at the very beginning of her AEW run. There just wasn't room at the top for her, and she needed an opportunity to have a clear pathway. And the moment she turned heel and had the opportunity to run the board in the women's division on Ring of Honor, I haven't been watching, but I'll tell you, the opportunities that have been made it to the clips and the matches here or there, she's fantastic. She's dominant. And everyone who said, give her that opportunity, give her that runway to just go, they should feel validated right now.
Absolutely. And another thing that they've done with her, and I noticed because obviously it's something that I keep up with is, women's match times and things like that. She has main evented ROH. So ROH just finished its 17th week. She has main evented 4 times. And I was thinking it was 5, but I went back. She actually main evented Dark back in January against Marina. So overall for the year, she's main evented 5 times, but she's main evented ROH 4 times, including this past Thursday when she had the Chicago Street Fight against Kiera Hogan, which was an excellent match. That for me would be worth the $9.99 alone if you have the time and you have the extra funds. I would go out of your way to watch that match. I was like, I can clearly talk about Athena all day, so I guess I should move on to some other matches that we have on this pre-show. Let's see. We've got. I think I skipped one. Wait. Oh no. Did I get it? Okay. So this match was announced last night during Collision. We are getting Stu Grayson versus El Phantasmo. And Steven, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I think that this is a chance, if they want to do it, to put El Phantasmo over. I kind of hope that's the way it's going. It's a difficult one because El Phantasmo is not somebody he was on last year's Forbidden Door and looked great, had a really fun match and looked good in it. Not somebody who's particularly pushed on the AEW side. He's not somebody that's considered one of the biggest New Japan names to bring in right here. But I hope he gets a bit of a showcase and gets the win here. I don't think Grayson needs the win over El Phantasmo. The win for El Phantasmo makes the most sense. And I just hope he, especially with his new babyface run that he's on, it's a chance to really show that off. And Phantasmo is a wonderfully talented guy. Although my girlfriend refers to him as the lost Paul brother, and you have Logan and calls him she refers to him as Methy Paul is what she says. She looks like if one of them develop a meth problem, they would look like El Phantasmo.
No. As far as I know, ELP is not. No. He seems to be a good person in comparison to the other two. So I was like, don't lump ELP into that.
I was like, what in the world? That's how, but that was her first impression when she saw him. He says, is that one of the Paul brothers? And I'm like, no, it's not. But
yeah, so maybe that's what the
part
P
out
and
loud,
ELP stands for.
I thought it was funny. I didn't like it.
The P and ELP is El Paul.
I think it's great.
So yeah, that was the thing. But he's a really talented guy, and I think that the babyface run that he's on is going to do wonders for him. Yeah. I think it's going to work, and hopefully it's a nice little showcase victory for him and in front of a good audience.
Yeah, Scott, what are your thoughts?
This is the I think Brad said, the Canadian boys match. Give the 2 guys from Canada a chance to go out there, shine a little bit. I think El Phantasmo wins, no question about it. Stu Grayson's. I know he's doing the thing with the Righteous. Yeah. So that's definitely an interesting storyline for him, but it should be El Phantasmo getting the win here. I think he's the one that's destined for bigger things right now.
And as Brad named him, El Phantasmo. Jeremy, what do you think? What do you think about this one?
I need to get filled in on one thing. Is Stu Grayson a babyface or a heel right now?
He is. I guess it depends on how you look at it. He is a heel because he is trying to leave Dark Order. He got tired of them speaking for him and telling them what to do. But then he's also mad at he seemed to be mad at the Righteous for trying to recruit him, even though they were pretty successful at it because he's been wrestling with them. I think now I believe he's officially part of of the Righteous now, and they did a thing on Monday or on Thursday, and -1 was there, and so -1 is just like in disbelief that Stu is acting like this and that he has turned on Dark Order to join the Righteous. So poor -1 has had a rough year. First it was 10, and now and now Stu Grayson.
Okay, so there are heel babyface dynamics, because when I last saw Stu Grayson, he was like in a match against the Dark Order, and it was just like this slice moment in time, and it looked like, well, Dark Order seems to be bad in AEW, and if Stu Grayson is feuding with them, that would, in my mind, make the babyface. But there appears to be a lot more at play here, so I'm going to go with El Phantasmo because he's clearly just a babyface looking for a win, and there are aspects on Stu Grayson's side that can just, they could throw into a match that can further the further whatever feud he's got, because this plays 100% into my theme for Forbidden Door 2023, which is Tony Khan fan books New Japan Pro Wrestling. And it seems like there are matches and lineups and things that if you are dedicated to watching New Japan, you're scratching your head. But if you want a feel of New Japan in June 2023, Tony Khan is going to give you everything that you're looking for so you can scratch that itch and remain watching AEW for the foreseeable future. That is his goal here, and I think he's doing a great job at it.
I think that's very fair.
He is 100% fantasy booking his idealized New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think you're right about that. Especially because I was on the media call Thursday, and when he was talking, obviously we'll get to the Punk Kojima match, but he was like, I wanted this match to happen. Yeah. He was like, this is what I wanted. And he was like, Punk did, but he's wanted to wrestle Kojima for years. And somebody brought up the fact that, that 18 years ago, there's this clip of CM Punk and Samoa Joe where he's talking about Kojima, and he's doing his Homicide impression. And so somebody was like, he's clearly wanted this match for a long time. But yeah, basically Tony was like, I wanted this match to happen, and so I made it happen. And so I was like, fair enough. If that's how I was like, and now that you say that, I was like, yeah, it just seems like it is Tony fantasy booking.
Speaking of fantasy booking.
Yes. So this match is quite interesting. So we have the Mogul Embassy with Swerve and Gates of Agony versus Roppongi, Vice, and Despy. Whatever. It'll be fun. It'll be a fun time.
Speaking of strong style, that he's in, not chaos, which is basically, if you're a long-time New Japan, or if you're consistently watching New Japan, that's the issue here is Rocky and Trent are chaos. Yeah. El Desperado is a faction with strong style with Red Narita, who's nowhere to be seen on this show, and Minoru Suzuki, who is a heel with Chris Jericho, while his stablemate El Desperado is a babyface with Chaos. Tony Khan fan book, New Japan Pro Wrestling 2023.
Yeah. Rocky Romero is a very underrated tag team wrestler, really. If you look at his body of work, it's pretty incredible. And the No Remorse Corp with Davey Richards, he had the Forever Hooligans with Kozlov, where he carried Kozlov to really some big heights, because Kozlov was never better than when he was with Romero. And that's not a knock on Kozlov. I'm just saying that Romero really elevated him. Then Roppongi Vice with Beretta. And he books foreign talent for New Japan. He's in with the office up there. He's the foreign talent booker. And plus, not only that, the middleweight champion for CMLL right now. So he's
busy man.
He is all over the place and excelling in every single one of those roles. So, I mean, Rocky, plus he was a Black Tiger. He was Black Tiger for a while.
Yeah, right.
So really just a tremendous worker. He and Trent are a good team. If Miguel's right, I would watch that. And so this will be interesting. I guess, it is very random, and it's one of those matches. Everyone's just going to get their time to shine and do a few moves and things like that. It doesn't really matter who wins this thing, because it feels like a Battle Bowl match on the New Japan side, the way it's put together. So.
It feels like they were trying, because we had actually talked, because the pre-shows had gone down to kind of 2 matches per show, and so I was like, well, for this they'll probably try to get as much talent as they can, which is clearly seems like they're just cramming on talent. Like, I'm not complaining, but it just seems like they're kind of cramming in talent where they can. Scott, what are your thoughts on this one?
I will always wave the flag of Swerve Strickland, and
Yeah.
I watched him have to be the guy to lose to Hiroshi Tanahashi on Saturday night.
Yep.
So he should be getting his win back here.
There it is.
He's the one with the real faction. Roppongi Vice plus El Desperado isn't a real faction. I love Roppongi Vice, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But yeah, I think I see Rocky Romero. I see him getting pinned by the other guy that's in the front on the other side. That's the funny thing about Rocky Romero, isn't it? He's a champion everywhere. He's a booker everywhere, but he's also always okay to get pinned. And I think that's the beauty of Rocky.
Well, and Chucky T is not in this match, so he's not. Chucky T's been taking pins a lot lately.
Yeah, Chucky
so
T would be the one
Chucky's
getting
not in
pinned
this
a
one,
lot.
so he doesn't. He won't eat the pin here.
Definitely should always get pinned, but that would make me upset.
Swerve Strickland. Swerve has been the consummate company man for Tony Khan for weeks
had enough
now. To the point of last night of doing a yeoman's job of getting Hiroshi Tanahashi to do as little work as possible to keep him preserved for tonight. Which people I don't think understand is that job that he did to make that match look like they did anything whatsoever was fantastic. The smoke and mirrors was amazing. And Scott, you were absolutely right. That dude is getting the win tonight. Tony Khan could say thank you on the 0 hour pay-per-view and better days ahead for him.
And Swerve, it's interesting. Tony says that Swerve asked for that match, so the one with Tana.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Oh, sure. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want that?
But he's like, maybe he was like, I'll make him look good and I'll eat the pin if you let me wrestle Tana.
I guarantee you, there's a line in the AEW dressing room to lay down for Tanahashi in that spot.
There
are a lot of guys that would have been thrilled.
Before we added our guest, our guest is
you
here. So Brad said that Yo was there on Wednesday and he could have been the perfect to team with Roppongi.
Yeah, and a lot of the New Japan guys are also going to Mexico right after this and doing a week of Fantastica Mania shows.
Yeah, because
we hope.
Yeah, and so that's a lot of those guys are heading down there. I'd imagine Desperado might be one of them, possibly. He was Namahage in CMLL.
He's fighting.
Gotcha.
He's fighting Mascara Dorada 2.0.
Oh, nice.
And somehow they're bringing El Satanico out of the mothballs for that thing too. At some point too, it's insane. It's incredible.
Oh wait, did we lose our guest?
Oh, we lost Mel already. Oh man.
Yeah, I heard. Hopefully.
I was working with her trying to get her set up.
Okay. Wait, is she back? I heard
maybe
she's popping in and out. I'll keep an eye on it. You
okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I knew she told me she was coming. So we'll see if we can get her in over here. And then
the New Japan match.
Yes.
Oh no. Hello, it's me. Are we okay? Can we?
Do you want to add her?
Yeah, I got her. Okay. Wait. I added her.
Oh, we almost had it.
What's happening?
One more time. I was doing it at the same time.
Okay. We got her.
Yeah.
You got me?
We got you.
Oh.
The people oh no, we don't got you.
The hotel is not treating her correctly.
I was gonna ask her to show us her hat.
Hotel Wi-Fi, man. It's always scary.
Oh, it's awful. I just came back from vacation. It was terrible. Thank you. It's the worst.
Yeah,
I've
been lucky lately, but scary.
Home is the best thing ever.
Okay, Mel says she just messaged me and said she's gonna try again. So I'll give her a minute and then we'll talk about the New Japan match that we've got here. Maybe
so we got this is all New Japan. So United Empire there. We have Kyle Fletcher, Mark Davis, unfortunately from Aussie Open with a knee injury. We have Jeff Cobb, who has had AEW presence before. TJP, no Francesco Akira, his normal tag team partner in Catch 2-2. Unfortunately, would love to see Akira sometime in AEW. The guy's fantastic against LIJ, and of course we know what Shingo brings. And Hiromu Takahashi finally getting to work Forbidden Door. Last year,
Finally,
he had a fever. He wasn't able to. He
got
was
it.
heartbroken. He was heartbroken. He wanted to be there.
I
so
was
bad.
heartbroken too that he
Me
couldn't
too.
be there.
And so I think this is one. I don't like Bushi's chances in this one, but if they
TJP.
or TJ, well, if they book it the way New Japan books it, TJP's a champion. It's still a catch-22 if Geto has any say in it. I don't know if Geto has in this case, but if Geto has any say in it, it looks bad for Bushi. But yeah, it'll be either TJP. I think. Or Bushi.
Oh, come on. Please.
Poor Mel. Mel's a black screen. We can hear you a little bit, but we cannot see you. Mel, are you
You know
still
what
there?
bums me out? No Suchi.
Yeah.
They weren't ready for the gene blast. They
were
take
not
it.
ready
They
for
couldn't take it.
Yoda to take over North America.
No. He's busy in Noah right now. Scouting, Kaido.
He got a Kiyomiya feud, right? Before
Yeah.
they go into G1 and bracket fight it out.
That's right.
Oh man.
You know what I can say about this graphic? You know who signed to AEW because Kyle Fletcher's in the front.
Yeah.
And on the other side, Shingo's the only one that's actually had a match in New Japan on the other in AEW on the other side. The dudes with attitude. So hey, you might as well go with the guy you know and the render you already had.
Yeah, that's true. I wish Shingo was in a bigger spot personally. But he
always
made it
wish
on the
Shingo.
show.
Yeah,
I wish Hiromu was in a bigger spot. I was really rooting for Hiromu against one of the Lucha Brothers or Hiromu versus something like that,
awesome.
or even Darby. I think he and Darby.
I was so close. I was so close to my Hiromu and Naito Darby and Sting dream combination.
God, what a match that would be.
It was just so almost there.
Okay, we're gonna try this again.
Sure.
And see if we can add Mel to the stream. Hello, Mel.
Oh my gosh, you guys! I can see you. Everything's working.
It only
I'm
took
roaming.
like 10 tries, but we gotcha.
Well, part of it is okay, as some of you may well know, and I got a hat on for y'all. There you go.
Yeah, you're excited. They've been asking about your hat.
Well, no, and I appreciate. I was watching in the comments because we're gonna go get some food before the big, getting ready for the big walk on and getting over there and trying to wrangle the limited amount of merchandise that they will have inevitably at the tables because they never, ever, 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 ever bring enough ever. But I mean, I digress. So, I really appreciate you guys being on. It's just so exciting. Yeah, but so I am on my. What was that now?
It takes a village to replace you, Mel.
Aw, that's so sweet. I love it. I did tell Andrew Zarian last year on We're Live Pal that it took 3 men to replace me last year. So
and again this year.
This is what it is, man.
We
have too many cool people on the network. Too many honorary broads.
I'm just very glad that they agreed to come on so I didn't have to talk to myself for an hour and a half. Even though my sister volunteered, she was like, if nobody comes on, she's like, I'll come on so that you have to talk to yourself. So I'm glad that you guys saved us from that. Not from Nikki, but saved us from me being by myself. No, I would have loved to have. We've had Nikki on before.
Nikki's been on.
Yeah, we've had Nikki on and she's been fun. I'm glad that you didn't have to have me by myself for an hour and a half.
I consider it a personal nightmare to have to go on a podcast by myself and talk for 90 minutes straight.
Luckily,
so
I
empathize with you, and I'm not going to put you in that position.
I need someone.
I have not had to do that.
I need somebody to talk to on one of these things.
I need a counterpoint. I need a counterpoint. I needed an alternate point of view than my own. I can't listen to myself in a bubble.
Nikki said, I was like, well, dang, Nikki, I did not mean you. I meant talking to myself.
Now we heard.
That's like that moment last night when Ricky Starks was like, well, I'm glad you like me. Oh, shit.
This is going in the wrong direction. Everybody is great who's ever been on this show.
So, Mel, if you have a second, I do have a question for you. Now, of course, you were at the show last night at Collision Live. We saw some of the pictures there you took. Going into Forbidden Door, what's the atmosphere like? Is there a real buzz to the wrestling fans in Toronto right now? Are you feeling that going into this?
Guys, it's like what was really cool. Like the place wasn't full last night, but it was pretty packed, and everyone was hyped, and especially with the Naito moment, which was like I hope it came through the Naito moment.
It did.
Even before, and I think Paul and I were talking about this, is that you started to hear people chanting for him. They were like, "We want to be here," and the dude behind us, he could not make a sentence. He was literally just saying curse words, Naito, curse words. I think he slipped in, I get to see curse words, Naito. But he was, and the guys in front of us, we were all cracking up because the guy in front of us looks at us and goes, that guy's pretty excited about Naito.
Okay,
It was great to see him get that moment because I think most people were expecting it to be Naito, and people still were like, super excited to see him. I think it's finally getting that moment because we didn't get that last year. Yeah. And I think getting that, I think he just, and God, he looks like such a star in the all white, and he just against the black stage, like he just looked incredible. Like,
so I got a question for you, Mel. Now with Naito, we're all really educated and we could all put this together and figure it out. Now that was
being educated.
Like, right. Well, okay. but you're at Collision, right? And you have like, I guess the most educated of fans, presumably, if they're there in Canada for a New Japan show that's primarily AEW based that just picked up on sales. How do you feel like that knowledge, everybody started chanting Naito, like they all came in knowing that? Did that kind of knowledge get spread through the crowd, do you think? Was it like, how did that energy kind of permeate?
I don't think it was that they knew necessarily. It was that they wanted it so bad and the anticipation was so high. Okay. And I am a little bit spoiled because I was at the Madison Square Garden show. So the last time Naito did a big show in America, I was at it.
I was there
so
too,
I was a little bit like, oh yeah, it's great to see him back and everything else. But I was not expecting, there was the reaction around me where I was like, yeah, this guy he's beyond over. That place was like on fire. It was amazing. Like, the pyro was actually not as hot as the freaking building for Naito. It was amazing. It was an amazing moment. I've been lucky enough to experience a lot of amazing moments at big wrestling shows. I mean, I was at last year's Forbidden Door. I've done some WrestleMania, a couple WrestleManias. But that was awesome. That was one of those ones that's going down in the book as like in the top 10 to 5 of like just cool wrestling moments. I mean, everyone's ready. They are ready for Naito. It was in. He must have felt great. He was the way he strutted exactly the way he should have it because everybody wanted him so hard. Like, Bob's got a great picture. I'll do a download of pictures, the better pictures, because I'm 5 foot, Bob's 6 foot, and has longer reach than me, so he gets good pictures.
Yeah,
I'll do a download of him and his when he came in the robe on the ramp, man. It was unbelievable because he even got it with like Naito's name behind it and everything.
Nice,
but it was like you could feel that it was like a wave, and then everybody got what they wanted. And that was like, and that set the tone for everything from that point on, really. I think that every up and every down and every boo and every cheer last night that entire tone was set by the Naito moment in my mind. Like,
it was so smart to open with that and just go ahead, and it wasn't like they were getting it out of the way. It's like you said, they were setting the tone for the rest of the night. And for the whole weekend, I would say.
They lit the match for the weekend. That was not I give a lot of credit. Whoever did that, whoever said we should do that. I mean, there was an El Desperado, and I can't remember who he was wrestling, but it was somebody else because people were counter cheering, and I was like, no, both these guys. So, but to go on live when the show went on live, and that was what they led with, and I mean, people were hyped, and they like it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. Like, you did it, you nailed it, stuck the landing, like you guys. I mean, and if that's any indication of how things are going to go tonight, then, as John Muse said it to me a little earlier when we were chit-chatting about how we were going to feel after this show, is we're going to be freaking exhausted because people are in that place. This is the thing, is that it's a great arena, wonderful. You can see from everywhere. Like, we started out in the cheap seats and they let us move because there weren't people there. So we ended up in the seats where we were going to be in basically tonight. We were like 2 rows off, which was perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool.
And they went ahead and like, it wasn't full. I'm like, there's this place. They just released like 300 more tickets or something this morning because they finally figured out production. And it's like, there's people hanging from the rafters tonight.
Like, it was.
So if you think last night was hot, well, I don't even know.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's funny that last night was not full, because on TV it sounded full all night long. Like, the crowd energy was incredible, and it sounded like it was sold out last night.
And it wasn't. There were all upper decks. They let people move. They weren't going around and being like Stasi, because I can't say the other word, about checking people's tickets. I know some people I knew had moved by the hard cam. I mean, it was like cool. And what was great was the wrestlers were so hot that they were like John with people in the crowd. They were giving people hugs. They were coming out and giving high fives. They were like, it was amazing. Like, the interactions, they were just like having interactions during commercial breaks and stuff as they were like headed out for things and everything. And it's like, no, Toronto is ready, everybody. Toronto
was ready. A very smart decision for Forbidden Door.
These people know what they're doing. They understand what they're here for. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Like, I didn't think anything could ever top last year, but it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I'm really excited for you. And
it's not. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not just lip service, by the way. Toronto has been one of the best wrestling cities since the early 1970s, and before that, really. But this goes back a long way. One of the most educated, and what's interesting too is because of the way that area was booked for years and years and years, they're used to seeing people from all over the world. It's how the Tunnies book their shows and things. It's not unusual for there to be people from all over the planet coming to Toronto for big shows. Correct. It's almost like how that has worked there for a long time until Vince took over and dominated with only WWE for a while. But
it's because he killed AWA and Big Time, which were they directly Toronto, Detroit, because I'm from Detroit. That's why we were able to drive to this.
Sure.
Like the Detroit Metro. And I just read the Street book that Solomon dropped last year, which was freaking amazing.
Absolutely.
And I got to learn a lot of history about where I'm from, because you learn it through wrestling. And in the 50s, 60s, 70s, Toronto, Detroit, and so it was Toronto, Dick the Bruiser, and the Sheik. And those three people, even when they hated each other, were constantly interbooking their guys. And you had, Bobo Brazil, and you had Tiger Jeet Singh came in sometimes from like out of nowhere. And I mean, but everybody. I think Sakuraba, I was reading something in there, and it was like Sakuraba came, and I was like, oh, I saw that you were with my friend, and I love him. I was like, they had it great. They had it great. And so this region it should have, I'm not going to lie, and Tony knows it should have been in Detroit, but he can do it next year. He can either give us double or nothing, because we have the casino and the arena are pretty much like adjacent to each other, and there's trams to them, and we can do the whole thing. There's a Motor City Casino lounge inside of Little Caesars Arena. We were chanting pay-per-view at him at Dynamite. So while I will say it should have been in Detroit, this should have been in Detroit, it's going to be awesome in Toronto. They're gonna totally do its justice, and I think it's gonna this is gonna be the best pay-per-view of the year that isn't named All In, because let's face it, we don't know what that's gonna look like.
Do you think?
And it could be very close.
Do you think tonight's Forbidden Door will top last year's?
It's looking like it.
Yeah. I mean, just look at the 2 matches on top.
Right.
I would argue that because this is more of a one moment in time where a couple of the top matches absolutely mean something, but the rest of the card doesn't, and you can go forward wins or losses with most everything here, that this is going to be a better night than All In, because there's going to be a lot more consequences and people are going to be a lot more contentious about the results of that match. This one, just like last year, I think there's going to be a consensus. This is the night of the year.
Right. And then I think depending on how this goes, this is kind of going to set. I mean, I think last year's already did, but if tonight's is equal to or surpasses last year, then every single year, this is going to be the show that everybody is going to assume, kind of like Wrestle Kingdom. Like, it's going to be the show of the year every single year, and they're going to have to deliver every single time.
Yeah.
All right. So do you guys have any more questions for me so I can give you your show back? Because you guys got a big card to cover and a lot of marking out to do. I mean, deep analysis.
I was going to say, I do too. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Okay,
what you got?
Go ahead.
What are you looking forward to the most? Like, this got you here. We all know there's Okada and Ospreay and Omega and Danielson, the whole deal. But down ballot card, what are you here for?
Danielson versus Okada is like my favorite wrestler in the whole wide world, wrestling one of my favorite wrestlers in the whole wide world. Like, I have no idea who I am, and I didn't know that was on the card. But I have never been let down. I've been to the big New Japan shows. I have never been let down by a show with New Japan involved in it, and that will always get my money. Mm-hmm. And now it's crossed with a company that I bought every single pay-per-view for, including this one, because as part of our deal with our dog sitter, I gifted him the pay-per-view on our big TV. So our house / dog sitter got. I mean, it's get yourself a dog / house sitter who enjoys wrestling as much as you do, is what I say, because Trade is an amazing piece of.
Better bring it. You might have to throw him in some merch. I might have to get him a souvenir.
It might just if I can get enough.
You might have to listen. You might have to bring him back a Scotiabank Arena napkin or something.
There you go.
And date it.
Sam's thinking. She's thinking.
Listen, we'll find a way to get him some kind of souvenir. And Steven, you said you had a question for Mel?
I actually had the same question. I was curious what put you in the seat specifically, but I can really relate because I attended the G1 in Dallas when they came here, and I bought the tickets, the very first day they came on sale. I just figure I'm in, whatever the hell they want to give me. And I knew that the first night of G1, they always do something special, and I didn't know what it was going to be. And then when they announced that I was getting Okada versus Tanahashi, I just lost my mind. I thought it was the greatest thing. And I remember that feeling of anticipation that day in Dallas, getting lunch before the show and just realizing I was just about to watch a night of the G1 tournament and I was going to see that. I know exactly what you're feeling right now. It's a wonderful rush. And I hope you enjoy the day and I hope the show is as good as we think it's going to be. I bet it will. And I'm sure it's going to be a thrill. And then we get to have you on our show. So we get to hear
I was just going to say, so I will see you guys Tuesday at 5:15 live on this very network that you should be subscribed to. And
awesome.
Literal bells, literal whistles will be used.
Yeah.
It's and then you can follow me live. I'm doing a bit of a travelogue. I'm not putting that it's me, but if you're seeing pictures from Toronto, you could guess that they're from me. So on the Powerbombshells IG and crisscrossing on the Twitter, but I'm really using the IG because I'm having fun with it. So
yes.
I've been really enjoying my Instagram pictures. So all right, you guys have a great afternoon. Enjoy Forbidden Door 2, and I will see you on Tuesday.
Have fun. Hope that you
Bye.
don't have to be scooped off the floor.
Have fun.
No, we'll see what happens. All right,
Well,
I promise.
next week you have to be scooped off the floor, and Bob puts you in a bucket to make sure he puts a hat on the bucket next week.
On the bucket. Yes, I've already told him. Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Yeah, no worries, this stuff. Okay, got it.
I have an after. I have instructions for. We're gonna have to clear me through the agriculture section of customs, but besides that, like. All right, you guys, you have a blast, and I will see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
That was a fun surprise. And before we move on to the main card, I wanted to put up Daz's comment. So Daza said, I'm not going to lie, I have very little knowledge about most of New Japan guys beyond recognizing who they are, but I'm still hyped because I know the matches will be mind-blowing. And I think that's a really great mindset to have for people who are not super familiar with New Japan, because I've seen some of the comments from people who aren't familiar and they're just quite negative about it, or they don't want to, they're just like, they're the reply people who say who and stuff like that. And I was like, then why are you spending $50 on a pay-per-view when you're just gonna say who for everybody? But it's your money. But I'm glad that you're gonna see it, Daza, because I think there's gonna be some really good stuff tonight. So we will get on to the main card. And so we found out last night during Collision that because I told them before the show, this was actually going to be one of my questions, is which show should open Forbidden Door? And then MJF just told everybody last night that this match will be the one that's opening, basically, because he doesn't want to stay in Canada for as long as he can handle it. And he doesn't want to wrestle Tana. He doesn't think Tana is worthy of him. The usual things he's been saying, because they're an indie fed and they're terrible and all of these things. So I'm curious, since this is the opening match, and then we saw that Tana, he's from as long as I've watched New Japan, which I believe is I think 5 or 6 years into New Japan now, Tana's knees have always been an issue. Do you think, typically with title matches, a lot of title matches go 30 minutes. Do you think this match goes half an hour? I think it goes 10 minutes. What are you? Go ahead,
No,
Steven.
I don't think it'll go that. I don't think it'll go that long. I don't think it'll do a half an hour. But I don't think it's also going to go 10 either. The story here is that MJF is being so dismissive, so above this entire thing, that the match story will be that Hiroshi Tanahashi is shocking him by pushing him to his limits in this. That's how it's going to be played. Now, Tanahashi, as Jeremy and I have mentioned many times, has good knee days and bad knee days. There haven't been very many good knee days lately, and he was not having a good one last night. I didn't mean to before you. No, go ahead.
So that spot on the top where he nearly fell off, was that him working his knee, or did he lose his balance and nearly?
No, he almost fell off the rope.
That's what I thought too, because I gasped and I thought he was going to fall, and then I was like, but then they of course went into saving it by covering the knee. And
Swerve being a freaking pro.
Swerve did wonderfully.
Yeah, exactly. Swerve definitely helped that spot a lot. So sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Tanahashi, though, is one of the smartest workers out there. And I'll say this. We saw what an even more limited Keiji Muto was able to do with Tetsuya Naito at his retirement match. That match was great. That match lasted over 20 minutes. And Muto can barely move. I mean, Tanahashi can't run, but he can do other things. Muto can't do much at all, and he still managed to pull out something very special with Naito. When you're that intelligent, when you have that much experience, you can come up with something. I believe that Tanahashi will come up with something. And MJF is one of the best heels in the past couple of decades, and can work this. So I think we're going to see something fun. We're not going to see something especially physically taxing on Tanahashi, because I don't think you can really do that anymore. But I think it's going to be a good match. It'll probably go 15, 20 minutes. And the story is going to be that MJF is surprised by how he has to squeak by, I think, is going to be the thing, because he's just been playing it so dismissively that the heel has to kind of get his rear end handed to him a little bit. And then
he's got to get a little comeuppance there.
Slip out of the ring and do the whole thing for a moment, and then run off. And I think that's probably what we're going to see right there, and just get that heel finish out of the way early.
And he's gonna. And how soon? How soon do we think he's gonna break the air guitar?
Oh, well, yeah,
immediately.
That'll be in the first 5. That'll be in the first 5.
Scott, what do you think about this one, or what do you think about the time limit and how they're gonna play this one?
Time limit wise, I think 15 was a good point. 15, maybe just a tick less. But we live in a reality where MJF's in ring is much better than his promos. I firmly believe that. I think he's a better in ring worker than he's been on the mic over the past few months. I think his best overall work comes with CM Punk. I don't know if he's redacted on the show or not, but I will. I like CM Punk, and you're gonna hear it all. You're gonna hear a lot, but
I do too.
MJF's matches with Adam Cole, with Bryan Danielson, I think those have made people realize, he's in the Fatal 4-Way. He's a really good worker. And Jeremy had this great point on the show the other night. You know this guy's a New Japan fan at heart. You know it.
I laughed when he said that. It made me laugh. I was like, yeah, it's obvious.
Yeah. You know he's jumping for joy that this is his opponent. And I think he's going to go out there and, much like Swerve was, be very smart with it, Hiroshi Tanahashi. But Hiroshi Tanahashi is going to go as far as he can, because this is the bigger match, the bigger spot. Maybe he hits that high fly flow, but his knees are failing him and he can't get over to the pin. The crowd's going to go crazy. Hiroshi Tanahashi was the guy getting cheered for last year at Forbidden Door, not Jon Moxley. It's going to be a special match that they're going to work really, really well. And I think we'll be walking away from it very happy with the results.
Jeremy, do you have anything you want to add?
I have a lot to add. There's a lot to unpack about this one.
How about it?
I think it's going to be, 13 to 15 is about what I'm looking at. And with that 13 to 15, about 50% of that is going to be decompressed theatrics. Hiroshi Tanahashi doing the air guitar, MJF standing around the ring, incredulously shaking his head, going, "What is going on here?" All these kind of tricks. Remember, both of these guys are incredibly motivated to make each other look good.
Right. Sure.
Hiroshi Tanahashi is a consummate professional, and being a title match is an honor for him. MJF being what I think is a New Japan nerd, given that we watch these New Japan Pro Wrestling World shows, Steven and I. And sometimes when you're watching the show, the house show feel does make it look like an indie fed in some ways, the way that it is filmed. And it's what it's like, this dude is watching it, and if people aren't watching New Japan and are only watching big shows, you could totally make that knock about how it comes off on these shows. And I'm like, oh man, you're telling the truth, but
he's telling on himself a little bit,
lies kind of thing. And you're just like, that's how it works in Japan. Like, you can't put the United States expectations on this and moving forward. So I'm watching this, like, and if you're on the Discord and you've seen me talk about MJF, I am incredibly critical about this guy. I think he needs to be working more matches. Sometimes I don't buy into the hype that he is the special attraction that they try and sell me on. But when he has his matches are tremendous. He can produce in the ring, and I 100% agree with Scott that his match work and his in-ring work overshadows his promo work, which I find to be somewhat substandard and kind of carny, and
it's gotten really lazy.
Yeah, it's lowest common denominator kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We've had this conversation before a few weeks ago. Like, he always goes for the lowest hanging fruit because, I mean, obviously that's what heels do. But for somebody and it reminded me a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember who he had the promo with, and it was, because it was the really long segment he had, that really long promo. And I was like, it reminded me of when one of the early promos was CM Punk, where CM Punk just obliterated him on the microphone. So then he just kept talking and talking and talking and talking because he was trying to, like, prove that he could talk on the mic, and I think because he's gotten the reputation of being pretty good on the mic, that now he feels like he's got to just talk all the time when he doesn't necessarily need to.
It's what brought him to the dance kind of thing.
Yeah. And so he feels like, but yeah, he definitely has gotten, I feel like his promos have gotten a little bit more lazy. He does go for the low hanging fruit with every single thing, and so I would agree that in the last few months, his in-ring work is much better than his promo work.
The key thing is this promo's gotten very repetitive. It seems like
Yes.
every feud he gets into, it's the
Right.
same story. It was like,
Yes.
I used to be a big fan of you. I used to
Yeah.
worship you. Then you let me down, and now I'm gonna. And it just seemed
Right.
to have that same kind of.
It does.
was this Adam Cole promo, right? Like everyone's like, "Oh, it's so innovative." He used all these callbacks from these Adam Cole promos.
But that's what he does. He
And I'm just like, this isn't original. This is just like this is taking like the promo pattern that he has every time and inserting like into the slot of these Mad Libs. And I'm do better.
Yeah, he was doing that with the CM Punk thing because in CM Punk when they did the dog collar match, he repeated back to him the ROH CM Punk's big ROH promo, and so then I was like, well, that's kind of his thing, but yeah, it is kind of like a Mad Libs. It is kind of the same pattern that he follows, and so it's gotten tiresome.
Yeah,
and so it's just he's got to, and so maybe now he's making for, and I think because Mel and I talked about this like a week or two ago, I was like, it's the same argument, like we can no longer argue that we know MJF is good in the ring. It can't be. I don't think it's a surprise anymore. Just like Orange Cassidy can go. We know that now. We know that Orange Cassidy's not just a comedy wrestler. He can hang with some of the best of them. So I was like, so MJF, he's proven he can go in the ring. We're seeing these really great matches from him. So he's got to find something else to talk about. And
the only other thing I'd add, sorry, Stephen, the only thing is like they now have 5 hours of airtime. This whole special attraction thing where like every 2 hours a week they can get by without that doesn't work anymore. They need to fill this airtime.
Well, and he's going to be on Collision Saturday.
Rampage, Collision. He's never been on Rampage until this past Friday.
Right. And then that's what they're saying. They're like, for the first time ever, MJF comes to Collision, which I mean, it's the third episode, but yeah.
I got it all out there. Thank you for
promoting it. Steven, what were you going to say?
The sense of timing for both of these two is very strong. MJF is a really good heel worker, and most importantly with him, his timing of when to do things has really been excellent lately. MJF kind of knows when to do the sneaky thing, the dastardly thing, and Tanahashi's timing is unparalleled in wrestling. He knows exactly when to do stuff. So you got a classic babyface against a punk heel, and two guys that know exactly when to do things. So it doesn't have to be super long, but I think they're going to come up with something pretty good and something that won't be particularly physically taxing.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And Brad brought up the point we talked about at the very beginning that he thinks that Tana needed last night to get the kinks out of his system, and Swerve saved his ass when he slipped last night. We're going to see great stuff here. MJF is perfect to put against him.
And the rings are different, to be fair. The rings are different. So
the timing. Let's talk about the timing. This is a moment in time. MJF may not be a champion next year. Tanahashi is going to be a year older. This is a perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
You're never going to have this window of intersection of Tanahashi on his way down and MJF on his way up that would make this an intersection to be like to coalesce right now. Like,
it's like
if you're
it's like what I've been saying about the CM Punk matches. If you have any dream CM Punk matches, go ahead and do them.
Yeah.
Go ahead
and out of the way.
Right.
Don't know if I'd wait a year on that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we also have the rest of these matches are not in order because we have no idea when they're happening. So one of the really big matches is another. We do have a lot of as with New Japan typically does have a lot of multi-men matches. And so AEW does that as well. So here we have the 5-on-5 Blackpool Combat Club with both of Jon Moxley's wrestling son, his wrestling son Shooter, and then his adopted wrestling son Konosuke Takeshita. I will say his name properly. Kevin Kelly stumbled over that a little bit last night. He was struggling.
Can we just call him tall, dark, and sexy?
He did. Moxley did. I was like, Moxley knows how to call it. He called Shooter a panty dropper back when back in T1. And so then you've got the tall, dark, and sexy with Takeshita. And so on the other side of the ring, we have the Elite with Eddie Kingston and Tomohiro Ishii. And so Scott, I'll go to you for your thoughts on this one.
I think I said this would be the third best match of the night, and I am now comfortably in that camp after Tanahashi struggled a little bit last night. Not that I think that match will be bad. I just think it's going to be really hard to keep up to this pace. This pace is going to be incredible. You have 10 wrestlers who are going to go out there and put on a show. I'm really happy Takesha's on this show. With his DDT relationship that still does exist, I never know if he's going to be allowed or not, but now that he's an AEW signed wrestler, I'm pretty comfortable that he is here. I really wanted Shooter on the show. I cheer for this guy as hard as anyone in New Japan outside of maybe Okada himself. So I'm really excited that he's on here because last year he had his best excursion moment. At this show. He lost, but it was still that moment that
it was a star-making moment for him. Or like he definitely stood out, I guess, to people who weren't familiar with him too.
Yes. And Claudio and Eddie Kingston are going to kill each other. So what's to be upset about with that? It's going to be awesome. Be awesome. It's either Wheeler Yuta or Tomohiro Ishii getting pinned though. So
yeah. And so, Yuta's been getting pinned a lot lately. And Brad said the story with Eddie and Mox is next level right now, and it's only been 2 weeks of that. Yeah. So
I would not be surprised if Kingston got pinned.
You think Mox is? You think Claudio will pin him?
I think there could be some dynamic between Claudio and Moxley and pinning Kingston, like Claudio.
That's, I hadn't really thought about that, but I think you're onto something with that.
Yeah, there's a schedule that Kingston has going forward that is going to take him out of Ring of Honor and AEW commission. I think he has one Dynamite immediately after Forbidden Door and one Collision on July 8th, which, LOL, he's not going to be on that show. And then he is off to G1. Card subject to change. But he is then from July 13th all the way through the middle of August.
Yeah.
He is in Japan. He is gone. He won't be on Death Before Dishonor. He will maybe be on All In and All Out, but you need to circle the result of this match and then look at the pay-per-views at the end of August and the beginning of September to kind of draw a thorough line from point A to point B of what's going on with Claudio, Moxley, and Kingston.
Right. And then you also have, speaking of September, we have Grand Slam 2 weeks. So it's All In, All Out 2 weeks after All Out is Grand Slam.
Right.
So there's a lot going on. It basically extends into fall, which is an interesting thing that they're doing here. So we saw that at Double or Nothing that BCC got the win. So I guess we see it. So they'll go, I guess, 2-0 against them. And so did that possibly set something up for All In or All Out between them? Do they get a rubber match, you think, between these?
The Bucks and the Hung Bucks and the Blackpool Combat Club?
Well, yeah, I guess it would probably have to be that combination because it sounds like Kenny's probably going to be busy with some stuff and, or at least that's the way it looks like it's unfolding. And then who knows? I guess Claudio, and that's the thing. I don't know how long Claudio's going to hang on to this ROH title because he has not been in ROH in weeks. It's been, part of it was one of the times they did filming, he was in Japan for Dominion. So he missed all of those tapings, but it's been a while. Like Athena has been the only constant champion on that show.
Blood and Guts.
Yeah.
Where do you think Blood and Guts happens? Do you think it happens? Do you think they're going to?
Unfortunately in Boston. No, in Boston. Because that's the first time they're back from Canada. It's in the Garden, so it's big enough. We had Survivor Series War Games here.
Okay.
So I think there's a real chance. And I will unfortunately have to see War Games live again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Live War Games in a live venue is not as fun. I'll tell you that right now. Because you miss half the action through 2 rings.
One of my local promotions did a War Games a few years ago, and we were like, even front row, we were just like, where? I mean, it was still, they did it pretty well, but it was like, where do you look? Like, you always feel like, do you watch the action right in front of you? Do you focus on the little side stories like here and there? Yeah, it's definitely live. It definitely takes you out, kind of takes you out of it a little bit because you don't know where you're going here. And so, do you think Ibushi shows up here
on this match?
On this match is either to come in for something or to set up, or do you think does he come in to help Kenny later in the show? Or
I am 100% on board with him showing up at the main event with Kenny.
Okay, because I was asking because some people have wondered if this match extends to a blood and guts. Well, I guess it would be Boston, but some people have wondered if they save it for All In, that instead of it being like an Eddie Kingston or obviously an Ishii, that maybe Ibushi steps in to be into with the Elite. And I guess they would put Kenny, and by that time maybe Kenny would be circled back around where he would be in this match. So would Ibushi, do you see, if Ibushi comes, do you see him getting involved in the BCC story?
Yes, I do. I do. I will get into the scenario of how I think this all works out later on tonight. But you did touch on something that I've been kind of feeling like is in the air, or hasn't been in the air, and ergo has been in the air with the way that wrestling kind of buzz kind of works. Mm-hmm. So I think Ibushi is a guy that is going to be an equalizer on the side of the Bucks and the Elite. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure when the whole blood and gut thing. I think Scott's probably pretty right about that one. But All In is going to be a lot of chalk matches top down the line that, depending on whether it's on pay-per-view or streaming, I feel like the caliber of matches are going to be like dependent on that. Mm-hmm. We haven't quite determined that, but if one of them is streaming and one of them is a pay-per-view the week later, as big as the Wembley show is, a lot of them are going to be building to the week after.
That's okay. See, and that's really interesting because I've been trying to figure out, because I was like, All In obviously is going to be huge and it's mostly going to be dream matches. So I was like, did they save some of this storyline stuff for the following week at All Out, which it kind of seems like maybe that's what they're doing. And my friend has kind of stated that maybe, I mean, and it would be kind of hard to do in Wembley, that they do Stadium Stampede in Wembley and have it be Blackpool and the Elite, which I was like, at this point they probably could save it for All Out. And they could even do a Stadium Stampede. I mean, I know it's more of a cinematic match, but depending, they're going to have a lot of tired people in that week because that's a week turnaround with traveling back and forth over the ocean, and not everybody's going to fit on All In. So it'll be interesting to see. But I do feel like Ibushi is going to be involved down the line somewhere. And like you said, we'll get to we'll let you say how you think that's going to happen. And Brad, actually, I guess Brad, I'm going to save your comment because I'm going to pull that back up when we get to. I will save that for when we get to that match. And then Brad did say, that this match might be his one that he's looking forward to the most besides the two main events. Everyone I love is in this match. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I love this story. I've loved how it's played out so far. I like all the there's so many interesting dynamics involved, especially when you add Eddie Kingston into this, and he's just pure I hate Eddie Kingston. And then so I think I'm looking forward to see how this one plays out. So let's see. So this is another match that I'm really looking forward to, and this one got added Friday night on Rampage. MJF told Adam Cole that since he was so kind to push him towards the match with Tanahashi, he was going to do him a favor and get him a match on Forbidden Door too. And then he announced it before Filthy Tom got into the ring to attack him from behind. He's like, "Oh, it's Tom Lawler." And I was like, you couldn't wait 5 seconds and let Tom Lawler come attack him first. And he had Royce Isaacs with him. So, Steven, what do you think about this one?
Oh, this one's about as straightforward as it gets right here. This is going to be a win for Adam Cole and a pretty good match, probably. Lawler's there just to kind of give him a tussle, and then Cole will overcome and then go on to his tag team with MJF, which will lead to the match with MJF and blah, blah, blah. So this is a pretty straightforward victory for Cole. It'll probably be pretty good. Lawler's been strong, and Cole's an excellent worker, but this is all more storyline to get him to MJF than it is anything else as far as the singles match goes. So win for Adam Cole, and it'll probably be entertaining.
Yeah. Do you think Royce plays plays into anything, or do you think he'll just kind of be out there doing his, just looking extremely buff? I was like, when did he get so big? I mean, I saw him on Resurgence, but he's just he's put on a lot of muscle, it looks like.
Yeah, he'll probably be out there to maybe throw a little bit of interference out there, but that'll be something else that Cole overcomes right there.
Right, of course. Yes, because you have to have,
But I can't imagine he will. I can't imagine he'll sit quietly. I think Royce will probably get involved in some interference there, but it'll all come for naught.
Yeah. Scott, what do you think about this match?
I'm happy Tom Lawler got a spot. That's about how I feel about it. I think Tom Lawler, for better or for worse, kind of gets screwed sometimes by New Japan.
Pigeonholed.
Yes.
Yeah, and him getting to be on the Forbidden Door main cards, it's nice. It's nice. Even if there's absolutely zero shot he gets a chance to win this match, I think it's still nice, and I think he'll give Adam Cole a good match. I'm just hopeful he has a good showing, because I think a lot of people should know how good Tom Lawler is.
Yeah, and I heard you mention it on the show yesterday, on the show with Garrett, about how they didn't put him in the G1 after he had how he had a really good G1 last year. I felt like he really won the fans over on both sides. Like he was just really obviously with his wrestling, but even like his backstage comments, like he just seemed he was going through so much stuff, because I think he had, was it his dad that was having some health issues like right when he arrived in Japan, and he was just very emotional, and he was very open with it, which I thought really, not that I think he was doing that for the fan sympathy, but I think just him being that open and honest really seemed to endear him into the fans. And so I was kind of surprised to see him not be in the G1 again this year.
I thought he earned his spot for another G1 with his performance last year, especially in a 32-man field there. But when you look at the G1 this year, it is a bit of a challenge to figure out who you take out. But in that,
they already took Yujiro out, so.
If I had my say, I'd get someone else out of there. Trust me.
Yeah.
I have a feel. There's somebody I would not. I'd keep. He gets in there.
Okay,
Chase Owens. Sorry.
We're just gonna say it
Sorry.
Something in my throat.
Well, and that's fair enough, and that's a fair point. But then, do you put Lawler in and have him do what Chase is about to do, which is score 2 or 4 points?
Well, that's what he did last year.
Well,
he actually came up toward the end. Once he was mathematically eliminated, Lawler went on a winning streak, which is kind of how Ghetto books. But he didn't. I think he ended up at like 6 or something like that out of that whole thing. He ended up winning his last couple over there. And the other one that you think of is Toru Yano, but they put him in the old guy block so everybody would have a bit of a day off.
Yeah, they did.
I typically fall in the middle here. I think it's a bummer that he's not in the G1 this year. I think it's an excellent consolation prize to be put on the main card of Forbidden Door. It says a lot about what Tony Khan thinks of Tom Lawler, who I might add was the best New Japan Strong champion that they had. Yes. Better than Fred Rosser, better than what Kenta is doing right now. As much as I personally love what Kenta is doing right now, and I know that other people disagree with me about this one. Scott, love you to death, but we don't always agree on everything here. Tom Lawler is far and away the best representative of that championship.
Yes.
And so putting Adam Cole up against a former New Japan champion, much like Hiroshi Tanahashi is a former New Japan champion, it's a good kind of synergy. It means that Tony Khan is paying attention to Tom Lawler, and Tom Lawler being on that kind of radar is good for his prospect going forward.
I would agree. And so Daza says, why haven't they given Lawler some promo time? They really should have pushed the UFC background too. Well, I think for one, he's kind of moved away from, I wouldn't say moved away from the UFC, but he's wrestling in so many different places right now. He does say pushing Lawler's MMA background could really give him an aura with new American fans. I suppose. Maybe, that you do have a point there. But I think because this was a surprise match that MJF just threw onto him, they weren't going to give him promo time. He's there just to, come from behind and beat him up and set up the fight on Sunday. He's going to have a really great match, but Adam Cole is obviously going to get the win. They're not going to have him lose going into this blind eliminator tag team tournament thing that they're doing.
One last thing about this. Was anyone else rather surprised and or impressed at the ability of the internet to keep this generally quiet for the sake of people who were going to be revealed? It seemed like the most polite spoiler-free like environment I've seen in a long time.
It was funny because Brad saw it before I did, and Brad was like, "Oh my God, there's a really big spoiler from Rampage," and he was like, "This is a Power Bombshells match. I can't wait for you guys to find out who it is." And then like 3 seconds later, the group text goes off, and it was like, "I just saw a spoiler," and I was like, "Don't tell me, like don't," because somebody just told me. And then I think so we're going back and forth about how excited we are. We're trying to figure out who it is. And then I switch over to I switch out of my comments and go to like my timeline, and I see a picture of Filthy Tom. And I was like, well, I knew I would find out probably Thursday night. I didn't know it was going to be immediately after. And I actually didn't know his opponent until I was finishing up because I was doing a predictions piece for DDT. And so I was like, oh, I guess I should go read the Rampage spoilers to see like who he's facing, and I was like, oh, it's Adam Cole. So I was like, okay. So, and then my sister didn't know who he was facing, and she read my piece, and she was like, I wasn't thinking about it, but I read it. So she was like, oh no, it's now she know. No, I told her it was Adam Cole. She didn't know how it happened, and then she read my piece and saw. So I was like, so I spoiled it a little bit, but yeah, it was a polite. Yeah, I think you're right.
It's so hard to avoid spoilers. Here's
it
one.
Is.
What Jeremy, I was about this one. The night Aussie Open won the IWGP titles, right? So I got up in the morning. I put the coffee on, all this stuff. Now I'm going to watch New Japan. I managed to get some sleep. I pull the thing up. I look at my ESPN alerts, innocently enough. Just wanted to check to see what's going on with the Cubs or something like that. Yeah. Twitter is the app next to ESPN on the phone.
Oh, no.
I accidentally brush. There's this, if I have this, you see, I don't know, there's this little hangnail thingy, and it brushed across Twitter just enough. And the first darn picture that comes up is Aussie Open with blood posing with the titles. And I was like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, I'm always it's funny because I
follow 300 people on Twitter. That's who came up first.
Yeah. Yeah, I follow wrestler. Sonata spoiled 2 things for me on Instagram. Like Sonata's Instagram posts never come up for me. I open Instagram and I see that he has left LIJ, and I was like, wait, what? And then I opened my phone like I think it was like a little bit later, and it comes up, and he won the New Japan Cup, and I was like, Sonata, why are your posts suddenly? I never see your Instagram posts, and you have now spoiled 2 things in a row for me.
Sonata leaving LIJ was the equivalent of your significant other, like you coming home from your apartment and everything is cleaned out, and you're just like, I'm gone.
Yeah, because I saw it and I was like, wait, what? And then I like translated the caption, and I was like, wait, did he leave? And so then I had to go look to make sure the translation was working properly. And I was like, oh no, he really, and so I was like, he really left LIJ. I was like, oh wow. I was like, well, thanks for that, Sonata. Okay.
Amazing stuff.
So for the next match that we have, we found out Darby and Sting were teasing who they had gotten to face. I believe they are calling themselves Lei Suzuki Gods. I think it's what they're calling themselves. And so last year,
Suzuki Sex Gods.
Oh, okay, so they did add the Sex Gods. Okay, yep, you're right. Yes, now that I remember, I tried to block that out apparently. And so last year we had Dudes with Attitudes, or Los Stingranables de Japón that we had.
I like that one. I like that one a lot.
I do too. I like that one. I thought that was really funny. And
I'd buy that t-shirt.
Yeah, and then New Japan last night when I was going to New Japan's website to try to get some photos, they had it listed as Los Stingranables on the.
That's a fantastic name.
Yeah, I love it so much, and I'm glad they kept with the theme. And so it was pretty. I think for most of us who follow both companies, we kind of had an idea that, and I knew that I had a feeling that Naito was going to be not a feeling. I knew Naito was going to be here because Andrade pretty much said that Naito was going to be his partner against House of Black because Rush is. I was going to say Rush is unavailable, but then we turned to, according to Rush, that is not true. He's got his visa. He's been in the States for a month.
He's on paternity leave. He just had a kid.
He did, but there was a thing going around that he was having visa issues, and I saw him and Jose, and the assistant, were going back and forth, and Rush said, "I never had visa issues. I've been here for a month." So okay. I I don't
That's
know what kind of
Roosh.
drama is happening over there, but it seemed so. Andrade was heavily hinting that Naito was going to help them. And so it makes sense that Naito's here. Obviously, it makes sense because Naito didn't get to come last year. Naito was who Jericho feuded with in Japan for a while, and so now we have this one. Hang on 1 second. So Brad says, "Can we now officially say that Sting and Darby are unofficial members of LIJ of Los Ingobernables de Japón de USA?"
The Ingovernables of Japan, of the United States. Yes.
I will tell you that there is a quote from Star Wars that I like to attribute when wrestlers like to tell me what is true and what is not true. And that is, what I told you was true from a certain point of view.
That and guy in wrestling, we know that that's pretty accurate, especially when it comes to other companies getting in and how things play out between other things with especially with AAA and CMLL and things like that.
Well, this one, Jeremy, though, plays into something you said earlier about Tony Khan fan booking New Japan, because really this team doesn't make Sting, Naito, and Allen make all kinds of sense. It's fine. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see Sting and Naito share a ring. I mean, these are guys. Naito has moved into icon status in Japan. He's still the most popular guy in the company, even when he's not the champion. And he throws out the pitches at the Hiroshima Carp games all the time. The Hiroshima Carp wear LIJ shirts. He's kind of part of the pop culture in Japan. Sting, of course, all-time legend. Darby's fantastic. On the other side of this feels like we're setting up more of an angle with Jericho and Sammy than anything else in this match. And I think that might be where this is. There's another match later on that feels more like an angle than a match. But this one, Suzuki has no business being here, except that Tony Khan wants to see Suzuki on his shows. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but someone needs to carry Chris through this match, I suppose. So Suzuki and Sammy can kind of do that.
And Sammy wasn't on Collision last night. He was it Flight? I'm assuming. I don't know if it was like a flight thing or they just purposely.
Maybe he just doesn't like CM Punk.
Or Andrade.
I will say Andrade's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah, I was gonna say Andrade is the one. Andrade's the one who hit him. And as far as I brought up last week's show, as far as I know, Andrade has never apologized. He hasn't publicly apologized. Eddie did. He apologized on All Access. I don't know if that was for TV or would he have apologized anyway. But as long as we're talking about
apology, is it still an apology? News at 11.
Andrade punched Sammy.
So you know what? I did not think about Sammy. I just was wondering if it was travel issues, but I did not think about it being Andrade, and I am wondering now.
I think it's Andrade issues. Okay. One of the more fun Easter eggs, by the way, that's been going on lately is everybody doing their significant other's moves in the ring. And Charlotte hitting the Ingobernables pose in the ring on SmackDown Friday was a little bit of a treat for me. She did the whole lay down and did the whole thing right there. I'm on board for this. We need more of this in my life.
And it was funny because when he hit the moonsault last night, I was like, because he tweeted that she did not tell him how hard the figure 8 is to put on somebody. So I was like, at least with the moonsault, that's easier for him to do.
We are into another footnote chapter of Tony Khan fantasy book New Japan Pro Wrestling with this match. It really would have made a lot more sense, but they ran out of room on this card to have Darby, Sting, Hiromu, and Naito in another match with 4 other people, and then continue to do Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and say Daniel Garcia versus Minoru Suzuki, Ren Narita, and El Desperado. And you could have forwarded the same story with the dissolution between Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara as a moment of time.
Right.
But the takeaway that I have from Forbidden Door is that they all try and make sure that anything that super, super consequential in AEW lore is not going to be trigger pulled here. It's simply going to be stoking in the direction that they're already headed. We have to be prepared that a lot of major things may not happen tonight, but they will significantly hint towards them.
I think that's what I'm saying is I think there's going to be 2 instances tonight where we start to see things move toward other things. And the match is really kind of there to get that ball rolling. And
Do
I
you
feel like
think-
this is probably one of them.
Do you think Sammy turns here and
No.
just leaves Jericho?
No, I think
And-
they'll save that for one of the
Whatever
bigger
definitive happens down the line, this is simply going to be like one progression towards the trigger being pulled later on. The trigger's
Gotcha.
not getting pulled
Yeah.
tonight.
Right.
Yeah, I agree there. I mean, they could. I mean, they could if they wanted to. But I feel
I
like
think
they'll
he
probably
should just turn on Jericho for good finally, and then just leave with Suzuki.
I'd be fine with that. It's I'm not sure why Suzuki's even with him. That's,
Keeping it Sammy style.
maybe he's taking Sammy with him. I don't know.
I would love to hear Tony's explanation. Is that what does Minoru Suzuki look at Chris Jericho and see? Yes, that's the guy I want to tag up with.
Weren't they together last year?
They were.
Yeah.
There you
Again,
go.
but again, I don't know why
Tony
does it.
Khan's gonna tell you
Well,
exactly.
it's like that's
I
the
were
fan booking.
together
Like
last
Suzuki's complete character and motivation has all changed within the last year. But what Tony Khan has done is just taken the character of Hino's and Minoru Suzuki and put him right into this like plug and play position with Lei Suzuki Setsukong, even though it doesn't make a lick of sense in the grand scheme of things. You've got Desperado, who's working with Suzuki every night in the trios division, and he's a face on the pre-show, and then you've got Suzuki programmed as a heel later on the show. It's like, okay, sure, smile and nod, it's party time.
Brad said, "Come on, Jericho and Suzuki have their own handshake."
Not as good as the that former Bloodline handshake, but a valiant effort.
Scott, do you have anything you want to add about this match?
I'm just excited to see the energy for Naito when he tags in. I think that's what I'm most looking forward to.
Yeah.
And as I like to remind people, if it's a Sting match, you know it's going to deliver. Because that's for some reason in the year 2023, Sting's still putting on these great matches, even if he's limited to his splash, his Scorpion Deathlock, and the Death
that's
Drop.
all he needs.
Exactly.
It's another man who doesn't do a lot, but he is incredibly smart about exactly when he does it.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. Before we talk about this, Brad, I just saw Brad's comment. Brad says over under on how long it takes Naito to take off his suit.
That's why they have a 6-hour pay-per-view window on this thing on my cable system, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
It's going to be longer than the actual match itself.
I could. I'm gonna time. Maybe I should time it like I do women's matches. I'll time his intro and see how.
Oh, that's
he
great.
is.
There was Zack Sabre Jr. had one of the funniest lines in backstage comments about Shota Umino when Umino was coming there. He says, "Everyone keeps talking about you like you're the next Tanahashi." He says, "Hell, it takes you so long to get to the ring. You're the next Naito."
Yes, and he's got the Naito hair.
Yeah,
It's like the same color as Naito's, and then his everything else about him is very Tanahashi. So he's like a combination of the two.
And
somehow their hair looks more like feathers than it does hair. I don't know how they do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very special. Apparently,
Fantastic.
Naito gave him his secrets. All right, so this match, we have now had been rumored that was going to be CM Punk versus Kenta. Kenta has went on Twitter and said this match is not happening. Kenta has then there's some stories that maybe he has some heat with Rocky and New Japan, and maybe there's some more to this than actually Punk not being the only one being a troublemaker, that maybe Kenta is a bit of one as well. This has been some of the things that are going around. So instead they plug in Satoshi Kojima, which, I mean, of course there are a lot of back and forth about who and why is he in this spot, and Kojima even saying on Twitter that I'm not a world famous wrestler, but CM Punk is, and I'm excited to be in this match. When Kojima obviously has, like, on the media call, Tony was like, I wanted this match to happen. Then he proceeds to just list all of these accolades that Kojima has. He probably left out some because there are so many. But Jeremy, what's your take on this match?
This fucking match. This fucking match. Okay. CM Punk is apparently a company guy. He will do whatever Tony Khan needs him to do in any.
Oh yeah, he's a company guy.
He's been a company guy
Happy to be
for
a
the last.
company.
He's a company guy for the last 8 days.
Happy to be a company guy. Really just get the troops motivated and lead by example. On the other side, we have Satoshi Kojima. He is a venerated champion and honored honored wrestler in Japan. Triple Crown champion, GHC champion, IWGP, the
Grand
whole
Slam.
deal. Grand
Career
Slam.
Grand Slam.
Held
I
One of
just-
the greatest tag teams in
held the
history with Tenzan.
Unbelievable stuff. Great
held the
stuff.
NWA title.
But he's
right.
only really had like, you could count his matches with all your fingers that he had in New Japan this year. Not exactly somebody that's been around and is a regular, even though he was on the Blue Justice show a couple of days ago. He does do spots. He is not what we call a regular on the New Japan cards and the New Japan circuit. He's been with All Japan, doing some other shows. So it's a very curious thing. I would much rather see this than the CM Punk Kenta match that everyone was salivating for. That is not a match that you want to see. That is a move that you want to see.
Yeah.
You want to see
Listen,
That's right.
I happily want to see that move. I want that match.
but the
I mean,
narrative
even if I will
around
take it, I will take it on a Dynamite. It doesn't have to be a paper.
Sure, this does not have to be a forbidden door.
No, it doesn't have
you
to
know,
be.
like mic drop match. This is not what that is, and it has been built up over the years. Kenta is absolutely right. Pay him the money or just move on, because this is not what this needs to be. As for this match, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fine. CM Punk in the wrestling world, as much as he infuriates me, makes wrestling more exciting. And him in the tournament, even though the rollout was head scratching, just throwing a graphic up there and saying, oh, CM Punk is wrestling his first singles match in 10 months in a tournament against Satoshi Kojima. That was a choice.
It was a choice. It wasn't even an announcement. It wasn't, which I think was the point that was made yesterday by Garrett. It wasn't even a Tony Khan announcement. It just popped up on the screen, and I was like, yeah.
So I think I've got it out of my system. I will have fun with it, but this is two very different kinds of company guys going at it.
Yes.
I think this could be. I think this could be a match that surprises a lot of people how good it is, because the thing is, Kojima can still go. He's still a good wrestler, and we certainly know that Punk can work. Kojima has an interesting thing. You talked about all of the accolades. He's won G1s, the Grand Slam, all the titles. He still has a plucky underdog thing to him when he wrestles a guy like CM Punk, and Punk was getting booed last night. The crowd's going to be on Kojima's side, and he's going to lose because Punk's going to win this one. We understand that, and Kojima is in a position where he can lose, and it doesn't matter. Especially to All Japan fans, or New Japan fans, excuse me. You said he was in All Japan most of the year, but he's a New Japan guy in this case. The thing is, Kojima is a good underdog, even though he has won just about everything there is to win in the business.
Right.
And Punk is going to be the heel in this one, whether he works it like that. I'm curious to see if he leans into it.
He was leaning into it some last night. He was, sure.
Yeah, he was having fun.
And I think he definitely knew, like, once he got out of Chicago, like fans' reaction was going to be completely different, and he knew it. And I think he played well into it, because, he was doing push-ups on the outside of the ring last night. He was grinning at the people booing him. And, people made the point that, like, the roles are reversed when he was talking about how John Cena got all, how he was being force-fed, and people really didn't like him and they were booing him. And now the tables have turned and Punk is the one who gets booed all the time. And I think he played into it. And I think he will. And I think he knows Kojima is probably, especially because I think a lot of the fans who will be in the crowd tonight are familiar with Kojima. They know who he is. And they, especially in that situation, that they will, Kojima will easily be the baby face.
And Punk certainly knows who Kojima is and respects the hell out of him. And one of the things when Punk was coming up in the business, Kojima was the king. So as his career was developing, Kojima was the guy, and always in the mix in New Japan. So I think he's going to work hard to make Kojima look good. Kojima's capable of looking good, and I think a lot of people are going to be surprised. Obviously, Punk's going to win, but I bet this is a surprisingly good match.
Scott, what are your thoughts on this one?
The only two matches that will have a better atmosphere than this are the two big title matches, because there's one thing that CM Punk guarantees, and that's a great atmosphere. Whether he's getting booed out of the building or cheered, it's just an energy that raises up a match. And I think that's exactly what this is going to be. When Satoshi Kojima hits that desperation cozy lariat, and you think he's going to scratch and claw over to Punk to try to beat him, the crowd's going to go insane. I think this is going to be such a good match. They're two old school workers. you saw it on the video yesterday that they showed to hype up this match. Punk was giddy for this match.
Yeah, he was.
He was like, "Oh man, I get to go against Kojima." He almost forgot that he had to be like a wrestler because he's like, "Oh, and then I'm gonna kick your ass." But yeah. Awesome.
Did you see the Kojima? Because the caption was that I think Kojima said, "I'm gonna kill you, you idiot." And today Kojima tweeted, and he was like, "I didn't say that. I would never." He was like, "I would never. I'm a nice guy, I promise." Because I guess he's like, "Oh, I'm the baby face here. I gotta just give me bread and I'll be good."
I just think it's going to be such a fever pitch type thing.
Where do you put this on the card then? After the
Probably
reaction last night, where does this go? How far do you keep it away from the double main event and put it earlier? Is this your middle of the show card? I mean, match. Where does this go?
It isn't going that long.
The game that me and Jeremy and GG played was, do you try to get CM Punk out of the building before the Elite come into the building?
Yeah, I think it might be second.
Yeah,
that early.
There was a reason I put that Blackpool match so far down, and then I put this match right before all the title matches. Anyone with the title are all the match cards after this. I tried to strategically set up how would I book this show to keep Punk away from the Hung Bucks in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. So I put one at the very beginning and the other before the title matches with about 2 or 3 match buffers in between.
Yeah, you got to get them out. You got to keep those entities away. I don't think Kenny will care. I think that's been kind of the sign, but yeah, that's the fun part of this show, isn't it? First time we're all under the same roof in a long time. I can't wait for that press conference
when reality blurs. AEW.
Seriously though, wouldn't any of us be absolutely astonished if something happens? They're going to do this. They're going to do it right one night, right?
I hope they get this figured out.
They got to.
There's a lot of money being left on the table. Otherwise.
Yes, I think so too, and I think they're hinting at it. And I think they're not dumb. As much as they don't like each other,
Punk will hint at it until he can't no more. To be fair,
Brad says Punk versus Kenta is for the moment. It will create Punk versus Kojima's for the match. It will be, and the match will be awesome fun.
That was my point about the Punk Kenta thing. Is that nothing in that match, even if it's a great match, will matter until it's the GTS. No one's going to pop for anything except the GTS, no matter what.
And then there would be a bunch of setups for it. Who's going to hit it? That's what we said. That's what I said a few weeks ago. That if this match is going to happen, the person who hits the GTS will be the winner because you can't. I mean, obviously, and then I heard that was also a point of contention is who was going to win, and apparently Kenta was like, "I'm not losing," and I'm sure Punk was probably thinking the same thing, and so.
It's kind of like
go ahead.
It's kind of like Tanahashi hit the high fly flow last night against Swerve because he's not hitting it tonight against MJF, so the audience got to see it at least once this weekend.
Right.
It's one of those things. Like there is a scenario to play this all out, and if you don't do it in the right sequence, it doesn't have the impact.
Sure. And so I was wondering with the Kenta stuff, if it is true about some of the new that, Rocky has heat with he and Rocky have heat in the New Japan, maybe not the happiest with him and things like that. If any of that is true, does Kenta lose the title to Eddie Kingston in July? But I mean, I know that would put I know he would have to go into the G1 with a strong title, would not be defending it. But do they have Kenta lose that title?
God, I hope so.
It was curious that they put him on. I mean, I know they didn't want to keep it on Hikuleo, but I was like, you have Hikuleo get Jay White out of Japan. I know Eddie was the one who got him out of the company, period, but Hikuleo is the one who got him out of the country. And then they didn't really follow up with it. Then they gave him the strong title and didn't really do anything, and then he loses it. And so I was so it's Kenta. And so I'm wondering, so do you put it on Eddie Kingston for a period of time?
So
you could. I mean, wouldn't be anything wrong with it. I think the only reason Hikuleo won the strong title in the first place was because they were about to murder Tama Tonga in the next match. So they wanted to give those guys something. Because Tama Tonga got destroyed by David Finlay in service of that story. So I think that was just to give some sort of thing to that group, the group of Tongans there, and then they could say, well, we'll just give it back to Kenta at the next show, which is fine. It worked, but and gave Hikuleo something. But yeah, I mean, he could. Both of them are in G1, so it is odd that Kenta and Eddie Kingston, someone's going to go in kind of with a high profile loss. But so that one, I'm really kind of torn as to which way they're going to go with that. And Eddie might be a more interesting strong champion, but is he somebody that's going to be on a lot of strong cards going forward?
He's on. It seems like he's on
Seems
there
like he's in a lot of them.
fairly often, though.
Yeah.
So
so they could.
and they would keep him out of. It would keep him out of the ROH story with Claudio for a little bit. Or if they have Claudio drop the title to someone else, then that keeps Eddie kind of out of the title picture a little bit, I guess, unless they make him have two titles. I mean, he could carry two titles, I guess, but yeah. So I was just curious how that, I mean, it may have nothing to do with it, but once that kind of came out and I was like, well, then did they have Eddie win in July and take
the thing is that the fans in Japan haven't seen Eddie a whole lot.
That's
They've
true.
seen some, so the fans in Japan haven't seen him. So putting him over Kenta in Korakuen Hall going into G1, everyone's going, oh, this guy's pretty good then.
Yeah.
That could be a way to put over and they do like to put over foreigners early. They do like to give them belts early. So very possible.
So Eddie Kingston had two simmering subplots this year. And the first one we all know is Claudio Castagnoli.
Yeah.
But the other one that he has had has been a simmering feud with Bullet Club, starting with Jay at Battle in the Valley in San Jose. Where he dispatched Jay White. And then David Finlay took over. Mm-hmm. Now we have Eddie Kingston going after one of Kenta, who is basically one of the lieutenants, not the Inner Circle, the War Dog, but a venerated member of Bullet Club with a title. If you look forward on, Eddie Kingston is then in the C bracket of the G1 with David Finlay. Mm-hmm. So he is no longer going to be feuding with Kenta. So you're at a crossroads. It may be that they give him the strong title, but if he has the strong title and then he somehow ends up feuding with David Finlay, who has the never open weight title, why would he be feuding with that while he already has a title?
That's a fair point. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I am banking on Finlay and Shingo being the ones to advance, because if Kingston continues to just get victories over Bullet Club here or there, but doesn't seem to win the big one, then you have something that you can play out with Kingston, a long-term plan with Finlay, Kenta, the entirety of Bullet Club, something that you can work with. And Kingston works much better as an underdog than he does as the guy who wins consistently, and the fans just love to see him win.
Right.
Yeah, he could do all that with the strong title, though. Remember, the strong title isn't protected in Japan the way it is. I mean, remember Lawler had the longest strong run in history, and then they brought him into the G1 and had him be middle of the pack. So they can still do it with that.
But you also somewhat diminish Kenta if you do that going into the G1, and if he's still going to be challenging for another title, or perhaps in a feud of Finlay who already has a title, it might be one of those things where you're putting too many eggs in one basket. And that's the only thing that I might be thinking about on that one.
No, those are really good points. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it beyond, like I wasn't thinking about beyond the G1. And I would assume that he's got to go after Finlay at some point. And so, because you have to go for the top guy. So some of them may be a title.
He might end up with a never open weight title shot coming out of G1 where he doesn't advance, but he
right, and that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Is that there's intersections there that you don't have to just limit it to the strong title if he is going to be there for a while, and if he's in the G1 doing the dance, there could be more long-term, bigger plans at play.
I wonder if he also has a resident card like John Moxley.
Well, and Eddie's
he's going to be spending a lot of time over in Japan.
Eddie's first match in the tournament is against Shingo, so that's
that's going to be. God, I can't wait for that one.
There's a lot of interesting matchups in that. That's the bruiser bracket right there between Shingo, Ishii, Eddie, and and then you have Sonata at the kiddie table. I joked about it.
And you got the world beater B bracket with Ospreay and Okada both.
Right, yeah.
And I thought it was funny they put Finlay in the C in the
C block with an R.
The C block, because a few years ago he was the C block champion, and I thought it was it's kind of full circle. He's back in the C block.
Finish the story
with Aaron Henare.
Yeah, they're gonna finish the story.
Yeah. Yeah, he and Henare finally fighting it out for the C championship.
So great.
right.
Oh, this one.
So,
All right.
Yeah, this one will be a fun one. This is for the international title. It's Orange Cassidy is defending against Daniel Garcia, Katsuyori Shibata, and Zack Sabre Jr. Katsuyori Shibata is the ROH Pure Champion. Zack is the IWGP Television Champion. So potential for them to take another title. They had so we had a fun little tag team matchup with them on Wednesday. It was Orange and Shibata versus ZSJ and Daniel Garcia, and then we ended it with all 4 people holding the title, and then it was Shibata and Cassidy both holding the title, and Cassidy jerking it away from him, and then they made the match official. So Scott, what are your thoughts for this one?
I've accepted Orange Cassidy's never gonna lose this belt.
Nor
I
should
want-
he.
No. Swerve should be champion right now, but he's not. So I
he's
have
not the
knew-
guy. I have
I
my
would've-
guy, but it's not Swerve.
Yeah, I wanted Swerve to win, but I was like, I've been this whole time. I was like, Orange is gonna go into Forbidden Door with the title. It's the international title. He'll go in with it. I thought potentially he would drop it, but now looking at not that I think this match is going to be fantastic. I was like, at this point, maybe it is true. Some people have wondered if Orange will take this title into Wembley, and at this rate, it looks like it's definitely possible.
I don't like Daniel
Yeah.
Garcia's chances.
I don't either.
I think he's taking the L somewhere in here. I don't know. To who.
Garcia, Fiesta. For a count of 3.
It's interesting because we were talking on where were we talking on the Boom? I guess it was. I've been doing so many shows, but
Yeah.
it's interesting with Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta, who are both really talented guys, and the perception of both. It's interesting how a guy is presented makes so much of a difference because Garcia doesn't have anywhere near the cachet right now Wheeler Yuta does, even though they're basically in the same position in their groups. But there's such a difference between a member of the Blackpool Combat Club and a guy in the Jericho Appreciation Society.
And it's entertaining and dancing.
Yeah, and it's just funny how the presentation, like Garcia is this little stooge, and Wheeler Yuta is like a member of this group, even though they both basically do the same same function within their faction. And so, but I do think Garcia is going to end up taking the pin here from one of these guys, probably not Zack. But if anyone takes it in this one, it's either going to be Orange or Shibata. I think. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Orange has to win to retain the title because it's an international championship.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is I think maybe Shibata wins it here, but I don't know. I still lean toward Orange.
I think if Orange Cassidy loses it, it's in a one-on-one match, and I think this is just to make the diehard happy with a work rate match and nothing more. And I am here for it. I think when Orange Cassidy loses it, I'm on record with Jay White being the guy to take it from him, and
heard that too.
that is my ride or die choice on that. And until that happens, I'm comfortable with thinking that Orange Cassidy will continue to retain from here henceforth here on. But honestly, this is a dream match. I do hope that we get what was teased: Orange Cassidy and Zack Sabre Jr. maybe at All In Wembley, something like that, because that could be a tremendous semi-main event.
Do you think that if this match happens in Wembley, that they will both still that Zack will still have the TV title, and this will be? Do you think it'll be a winner takes all, or do you think it'll be just like a champion versus champion type of thing?
I think it would probably be a champion versus champion because there's not enough time after the G1 to set up a contender for Zack Sabre Jr. And for them to advertise it, which would probably be beginning of September for Zack to defend that title.
Right. And so I guess it wouldn't necessarily be, because then if it's champion versus champion, it wouldn't necessarily be World TV title rules where it's a 15-minute time limit. And not that it may only go 15 minutes, but I don't
But
think
it could be a New Japan title match where it goes to a draw instead of
I could see that. If it ends up being champion versus champion, I see it going to a draw.
I'm still waving the flag for Zack and ROH TV champion Samoa Joe to match up at some day.
Yeah, I thought that's where they were going with this. Like back
too.
A few weeks ago, I thought we were getting Zack versus Samoa Joe with both TV titles on the line.
The Kingston rule is put a pin on that one as well. You know, G1 is kiboshing that for Death Before Dishonor as well.
Yeah, you're right. All right, let's see here. All right, so we have the lone women's match on the main card. It is Toni Storm versus Willow Nightingale, but it is for the AEW World Championship. I have some thoughts about that, but I'll let you guys.
Yeah.
So, why? Are we?
That's
Yeah, why? But
Why?
why is the IWGP strong? Well, I don't think is it the IWGP strong champion? I was like, wait,
I think
which
it's
letters am I
strong.
thinking? Is it the strong? Why is the strong championship not being defended on an interpromotional card? And why?
the
I can give
NJPW
you
strong title. Yeah.
reasons.
I mean, I think I know the reasons, but
I give you a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Jamie Hayter's not here like she was supposed to. Mercedes Moné's not here like she was supposed to.
Yeah.
And
would
they
it have been
said,
for the
"Uh-oh."
strong title had it been Mercedes and Jamie? Would it not, instead of being the AEW title? Do you think
I think it was going to be Mercedes and Saraya. Wasn't that reported?
That's a rumor that I have heard.
Which would have been not my choice, I'll tell you that. But
Well,
No,
there's
but I think
history
it's-
there. There's history
Yeah, there's a
There
lot of
is.
history there, and I think Mercedes probably has a lot of say in who her opponent would have been, and I think that would probably be because when Saraya was cleared, I was listening to her interview with Renee, and she said one of the first people she called was Mercedes because that's who she was in the ring with when she, when she was injured again, and a lot of Saraya fans went after Mercedes and blamed her and said that she paralyzed her and all of these things, which obviously Saraya has never thought that, and she was like, I was very adamant that that's not what happened. And so I thought maybe this was kind of a Mercedes is like, why don't we redo this? Why don't we, have this match? I think it was more of a Mercedes type of thing. If that match was true, if that was supposed to be what was on the card.
Yeah, I'm under the assumption that if Jamie wasn't hurt, that it would actually be Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm here, and not at the last pay-per-view. But I think them knowing she was injured, they said, "Oh, we need to get this title onto Toni because Toni didn't get she got a full run, but she didn't, right? The interim thing." And I think what they're going for with these matches is who has Joshi connections. Like I said earlier, Toni has the Stardom Joshi connection as a former World of Stardom champion. Willow, of course, is the New Japan Strong Women's Champion, who will soon be losing to Julia, as noted today, because we're supposed to have Julia Mercedes Moné, which hurts me, but also we'll get it, so it's okay. But this is a lot of putting together things, and I think that's why they did it. I would have just put the New Japan Strong Women's title on the line.
Me too, and I would have had, if they were gonna have it be somebody from AEW, I think Ruby would have made more sense because of the storyline they're telling. It's not champion versus champion, because I was like, you're gonna hurt Willow. Obviously, is not gonna win here. I would love her to be a double champion. I love her. But Willow is not getting, and I guess Tony's getting her win because Toni wrestled Thunder Rosa last year on Forbidden Door.
Right.
And so, which is another reason I guess they're doing this as well. And also because, because of the big Stardom show today, they could not get anybody from Stardom. Well, for part of the reason.
I will never believe any of the things until I see something happen with the Stardom stuff. Like Tony Khan could say he's tried. Did he? Though?
Yeah.
He
did say on the media call that he did have conversations with him, but because of the big show that they would not allow and he was like, I completely understand. He was like, he's like, you have to book TV around. He was like, you have to book other shows around. So he was very it wasn't in a blaming type of way. He's just like, it happens. Wrestling's hard. We all have shows. We all have things we have to do. Maybe it is him just downplaying. Obviously, because of all of that stuff.
Not sure how hard Tony's actually working to get him on there. So
yeah.
The scenario that I had was actually Willow Nightingale being challenged by Toni Storm for her title, with Toni Storm assuming that Willow Nightingale was a pushover and that she would be easy pickings. Mm-hmm. Then Willow Nightingale would defend and beat Toni Storm without the AEW Women's title on the line, therefore getting Willow over even more without really doing a whole lot of damage to Toni Storm, given that her title isn't on the line, and you could chalk it up to a fluke win for whatever reason. But there were ways to really put the rocket on Willow with a win tonight. And it is just becoming increasingly evident to me that Tony Khan is just not willing to do that.
Yeah, Tony's Willow's not as over with Tony as she is with
Which
the
is
fans.
really interesting because every time he talks about her, especially like on media calls and things like that, he's very positive about Willow.
He says all the right things.
He does, and he seems to. Yeah, I guess his actions are different than his. Obviously, actions speak louder than words, and we see that here. Somebody said Julia shows up after her post-match promo. That would, I don't think, flight wise,
that would be the most impressive accomplishment of flight I've ever
I was
seen.
gonna say, I think flight wise, that's not happening unless it's a videotaped message. But I don't believe she will be showing up.
Can you kind of clarify where you think this is going after? So Julia from Stardom made a challenge to Willow Nightingale this morning after the events of Stardom Sunshine. Mm-hmm. What does this mean, and where are we going as a result of this publicized challenge?
Julia Mercedes Moné. That is where we are going. That is the most important thing to New Japan, to Stardom, because they Julia's been doing interviews with Tokyo Sports recently, and when they were IWGP and World Champion before losing them at the same show, Julia said, "Why don't we have a double title match?" About Mercedes Moné. She specifically said Mercedes Moné. Of course, they both go on to lose those titles. Mercedes was, of course, destined to win the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, and Julia is now doing Tokyo Sports interviews that saying, "I would like to go overseas." Very timing. Tokyo Sports is always good for those kayfabe stories. And I do believe that one way or another, the plan was Mercedes Moné versus Julia, either at Independence Day or the G1 final or the next big strong show that isn't announced. Maybe they're just waiting for Mercedes at this point. So that's the direction. Unfortunately for Willow Nightingale, she was never supposed to have this title.
Right.
So the fact is, when that match happens with Julia, I don't think she'll be having the championship anymore. I think that's where they're working towards. Don't ask me about the IWGP Women's. couldn't begin to tell you what the plan is there anymore. Because that title doesn't get defended because it's New Japan's title, supposedly. Even though Rossi books it, no, it doesn't make sense.
No.
But the plan for the New Japan Strong is Mercedes, Julia, whether that's waiting all the way till a historic crossover or getting it on an American show. That's the plan, I think. And then you can run back Willow and Mercedes when Mercedes is champion finally.
Mercedes appears to have had ankle surgery, some sort of surgery from some things that she was posting on her Insta story a couple of weeks ago. Is there a rumored timetable for her? I mean, I know we don't know her exact injury and the exact surgery, but is there some sort of a timetable that they're putting out for her?
I saw 4 to 5 months.
4 to 5
somewhere.
But she has said very, very little publicly.
Yeah.
Very little publicly.
She's just gonna pop up, I think.
Yeah.
With a surprise.
Yeah, because I know some people were hoping that if that Mercedes versus Willow would happen in Boston because that's where Mercedes is from. But I don't think Mercedes is going to be cleared.
Damn it.
What is what's the date of that Boston show? Does anybody have
July 19th?
Oh yeah,
I'm going.
No,
that ain't happening.
July 19th.
Yeah, it kind of feels like what they want to do is keep the IWGP title in Japan and the Strong title probably over here more than anything else. But
right.
They should have called it the Monet title. I think that would have been a good
I would bet 50-50 right now that they merge those titles with Wrestle Kingdom next year or something.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be shocking.
Yeah. So Brad says that he was hoping for Mia Yamashita since she's been recently using Maki too. Yeah, that's how I had hoped instead of Tony. I knew that it was gonna. I was like, it's gonna be somebody in AEW. They're not gonna bring anybody in. They should, but Tony's not going to. And I have a question. Scott, actually, any of you may be able to answer this a little bit better. I am not super familiar with how relationships works and things like that. So since AEW does have a relationship with TJPW, but then this is a New Japan show. Would there be an issue bringing in a TJPW talent for this? Like, would that be like would that rub New Japan the wrong way? Would that harm things with Stardom, because Stardom and New Japan are owned by Bushiroad? Like, is that why we maybe didn't see somebody from TJPW in this spot?
I've long been under the belief that the reason Stardom and AEW have not worked together has to do with partly TJPW and partly them signing away Bea Priestley when she was World of Stardom champion. That is there's no fact to that, but once upon a time that did happen, and I do think you take away someone's world champion, they're not going to be too happy.
Sure.
And I'm not saying TJPW and Stardom are at like, AAA and CMLL levels.
That was my next question. Was this the thing? Was this the
like a blood feud? Or...
Yeah, we're not there.
Okay.
Are bodies buried somewhere?
Like Stardom, I don't think Stardom cares, truthfully. TJPW does, though.
Yeah.
But Miyu Yamashita was on that Impact New Japan show,
Yeah.
but she didn't face the AEW talent, right? Like, she didn't face talent that they're partnered with. So I guess that's like the situation there. But no, they're not AAA and CMLL. At least on one side, it isn't that.
Okay.
But they don't work together by any means.
I was just curious because I was like, I don't really know how those dynamics work. And so I was like, is this that kind of a situation where it's CMLL and AAA where they just like don't allow each other's talent to work in certain places, and there might be some bodies buried somewhere. There might be Bushiroad, New Japan, Bushiroad.
I'm not reporting anything, people.
No, I'm just asking questions.
Good question to ask.
Because I was like, if anybody's gonna know, it's one of you three will have answers. And I was like, I don't know how this stuff works, as I'm not super familiar with the promotions and like their inner workings and things like that. And I was like, maybe there's some rivalries that I don't know about.
I'll say this: Stardom works with everyone but TJPW in Japan.
Okay, that's
Japan
good to know.
Works with and Tokyo, and TJPW pretty much works with no one. So.
I was going to say, that might have more to do with TJPW than Stardom, just because that's I think they're.
And another reason I was curious is because they're sending Nyla is going to be in TJPW in the Princess was the Princess of Princess
Summer
tournament.
Princess.
Yeah, and so that's why I was like, well, then why won't they send somebody from TJPW? And I was like, well, it is a New Japan branded show, like co-branded show. I was like, maybe it's that. And then that's when I started thinking about the relationship, and I was like, maybe there's a big problem there that
there's
I don't
definitely
know about.
Respect there to not do that, I think.
Sure. That
So,
which also makes a complete sense. Yeah.
Though say next year, Yuka Sakazaki will absolutely be on the show because she won't be there anymore. So.
Right. All right. So we have yet another title match. This is Sonata threw out the open challenge for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, and maybe 30 minutes later, everybody was surprised to see Jungle Boy Jack Perry with Hook by his side announced that he was going to be the one taking this open challenge, because Jack has said this year he is going to win gold somewhere. Who cares if it's maybe it's New Japan that he's going to win this title. So he's throwing his hat in the ring, and I think nobody had this match guest, and if you do, then you might want to go play the lottery. So Steven, I want to get your thoughts on this one.
Well, this is the other match that feels more like an angle than a match, and it's fine. It'll be a good match. Sonata's a good wrestler. Jack Perry's a good wrestler, but this is all about getting Sonata a win on the show and getting a victory as the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, and to set up something. Doesn't have to pull the trigger on this show, but I think we're going to be seeing the beginnings of the whole thing between Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Hook. And so this match is really a way to get Sonata over, maybe build a little bit of a hint of dissension between Hook and Perry, and it'll probably be a good 10, 12 minute, maybe 15-minute match right there, and it'll probably be a lot of fun. But I don't think anyone's going to come out of this one just thinking that was the match of the night, man. But
they have to do a lot for that.
This match isn't serving. This isn't about the match. This match is to serve another master, which is to get that angle going. So it'll be fine. Sonata will win, and there it'll be.
All right, Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
I hope Sonata beats his ass and it's a squash match. Honestly, like the discourse here,
and Hook just stands there.
The discourse here is basically that Sonata No one accepts Sonata as a strong champion, and this isn't a strong contender. So lean into it. Show people that he's a strong champion and beat Jack Perry, who people don't see as a strong contender. They're still planning on turning him heel.
Right.
And so there isn't a whole lot to be lost for Jack Perry biting off way more than he can chew going after the IWGP World title when he's looking to feud potentially down the line for the FTW title that Hook has.
Yeah.
So, I don't see Tony booking his guy to get
I understand. But
I don't think it'll be a squash. I think you make a very good argument for why it should be.
Once again, this is Tony Khan fantasy booking New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Well, and it's interesting that obviously you're going to have MJF defend in a solo match, but Jack Perry is the only other pillar who has a solo match.
Yeah.
The other two are in the same tag match against each other. So it's interesting. And he said on the call that he believes in Jack Perry. He's he's rooting for him to do well type of thing. I mean, obviously it could just be setting up for,
this is a pure story match.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the thing that I keep going back to when I try to underline what the deal is with Sonata is that many, 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 many people tried to take down Okada clean, one-on-one in a singles match.
Right.
And they couldn't do it. And then this guy got his repackage. He got his shit together. He joined just 4 guys. They became just 5 guys. Yeah. And he was the guy that beat Okada. And in Japan, that was a big deal. It's not about what the stateside perception is.
Right.
It's because in the home territory, the home promotion, those fans are behind this guy. And so now the job
then
is
you
to sell
have
us
Yoda
on it.
Tsuchi come in and take him out and spear him pretty much out of his shoes after his first title defense. So,
but he still beat him. At the end of the day, he still beat the title.
That's true. That's fair.
I think the long game is to really just show that Sonata is a strong champion before he loses it. He may end up having the best G1 record of anyone in the field. This is kind of his claim to fame kind of thing. But the whole theory behind here is not Jack Perry trying to do that, but Sonata be like, yeah, you're not at my level, kid.
Right. And you use my finisher to win your match.
Yes.
Dynamite. Scott, what do you think about this one?
No one's talking about how this is the best looking match of the night. Come on.
Oh, the handsome battle. Yeah.
Come on.
The handsome battle. But Sonata doesn't lose handsome battles usually. And and it was interesting. You have them come out the other night and Sonata comes out on Rampage and he's in his suit and he just had such presence and command that Jack Perry does not have. And I mean, as he should, as the IWGP heavyweight champion, he should have that swagger. He should have, all of that, but it's just interesting. And it is. And that kind of presents, like you said, Jack Perry bit off more than he could chew. Yeah. He went after the biggest guy currently in Japan, as far as, title wise and things like that. So yeah, if had Jack Perry not been the one to answer this, who would you have wanted to see here?
Are you asking?
Anybody?
I will say before they fill in, I would have Sonata win with Skull End. Don't even use.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's gonna win. Yeah, he's gonna win this match. He's gonna win it solidly. He'll win.
I want him to disrespect Jack Perry. Maybe I won't get the squash, but let's disrespect.
It's not going to be a squash.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of goes with what Brad says. Play it up like Sonata is going after Okada and not having a shot. In this case, Sonata plays the Okada role, out wrestle him out of the building.
Who would I have put against him if it wasn't Jack Perry?
Should have been Swerve.
Oh man, that would have been a really great match.
It really should have been Swerve, but Jack Perry is Tony Khan's golden like draft pick here, and so he's gonna get the opportunities to prove himself because Tony Khan believes in him, even though you got Swerve doing the company jobs, making the guys that need to look A+ look A+. So
right,
if it was me, it would have been Swerve versus Sonata.
Yeah, God, that would have matched. That would have been. Steven, do you have any thoughts of who you would have put here?
Yeah, that would have been a good one there. Swerve is an excellent choice for that role right there. Or somebody, again, like, and he's already booked in a thing with Jericho and all that, but Sammy Guevara or somebody like that who would have a really good match with him and lose. I mean, this is going to be a showcase for Sonata. The two world champions are going to have a good match and win. That's the whole point of all this. So.
Right. All right. So speaking of of the big matches,
Here we go.
Here we go. The people. Thank you guys for watching us so long. We are now getting to the two matches that you probably want to hear about, and most likely they're going to double main event. But probably the reverse. But this is the graphic that came up, so this is the one we're going with first. So we have
the other one the main event, didn't they?
Yeah, they've been
Oh
calling.
wait, they did officially. Yeah. That's right. They are officially saying so. Yes, that is.
Yeah, it's
correct.
Okada
so
Danielson last. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So we have Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. This match, their first matchup at Wrestle Kingdom, as many people, including myself, match of the year. So what do you? First of all, do you think that they will top the first matchup that they had? And two, who do you see winning this? And we'll start with you, Steven.
Yeah, boy, is it going to top it? I think it has a chance because one thing that they have been open about, in a way, not in storyline or anything like that, but they've talked about how there were things that they held back from that Wrestle Kingdom, which seems incredible when you watch that Wrestle Kingdom match, because they knew they were going to do it again. You know, they knew that this was at least a 2-match story, maybe 3. So I think it has an excellent chance of actually doing that and of topping what is one of the better matches I've ever seen. So these two are certainly capable of that. And I think they have ideas already in mind for this that they didn't do in the Wrestle Kingdom in order to facilitate that. So yeah, I think it could. I think it really could. They're definitely going to go all out. And this is the thing, the same issue as Wrestle Kingdom when it was Okada and Jay White and this match. Mm-hmm. No one wants to have the second best match on this card.
Right.
And you know, and these are 4 guys that really know that they're capable of having the best match.
Absolutely.
And so none of them want to finish second. So they're going to be highly motivated. As for who's going to win, I have fantasy booked this 9 different ways.
How many weeks have we talked about it?
Yeah, every week since the first one.
Yeah.
So I'll just lay my thing out here very quickly.
All right.
I think that my pick to win the G1 this year is now either Naito, so they have the high stakes match with Sonata because that has to happen at some point. The former LIJ versus LIJ type of thing has to happen at some point, or Will Ospreay. And I thought it was Ospreay's year to win the G1. With that in mind, I actually don't think he needs to win this match against Kenny. So I think they could with Ospreay doing the whole Canada sucks thing and coming in as the big time heel, do the Canadian happy ending match where Kenny gets the win over him, and they manage to get back to it at Wembley where Will would be the heavy babyface. My thought on that is, why would they do that again? Okay, fair enough. He's already beat him twice. Right. Well, what if the G1 title shot, the Tokyo Dome main event, were on the line in the Wembley match?
Oh,
so this is my thought on that. Like, I was trying to figure out, well, if you beat Will twice, how do you get it back in the ring? Well, you get it back in. Kenny says, okay, you got the G1. I want to be back at the Tokyo Dome, and I challenge you for that thing there. And that was just my little, again, I got no inside information. That's just my thought. If you're not doing that, if none of that is happening, if none of all that stuff by fantasy books happen, then I suppose that Will gets his win back here. I'm trying to figure out Will winning this match, what that would particularly mean going forward, other than Will winning the IWGP US title, which doesn't mean a whole lot because it's barely been in New Japan all year anyway. So I'm trying to figure, I think it's a more interesting story if Will loses here and then has something Kenny wants later, perhaps. But if that's not happening, then I suppose then Will gets his win back and they do something incredibly special. It's going to be a fantastic match. These are 2 of the very best workers in the world, and I can't wait to see how they do something different, because that's one thing that they're also excellent at, doing the same match again but not doing it the same way. They're both brilliant at that, so I'm looking forward.
One of the questions I've had with this matchup here is Will's strength back with his shoulder? He has said in the past, now I think he's saying he's his best, he's as good as he can possibly be, whether it doesn't sound like that's 100%, but they also kind of reminded me of the thing with Ibushi. Ibushi was having the shoulder injuries. They were booking him for matches and he was like, I'm not ready. Will Ospreay has he forced himself to be ready so that he could have that match with Lance Archer, and now that he could have this match. And so is he is he as healthy as we would expect him to be, or is that shoulder going to come into play with this match? Not necessarily like in a kayfabe sort of way, but like, is his shoulder going to be able to handle, especially because he's going to go. My other concern is him going into G1, not with that shoulder having some issues, and that because we all know how grueling G1 is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's been wrestling pretty well, but I think he's also been careful. So we're never really going to know until the match gets in the ring. It's difficult for me to imagine Will holding back once this thing gets going.
Yeah, well, especially you've got the adrenaline there too. On top of the expectation, you've got the adrenaline going. So I'm sure that will carry him further.
They might even sit in the locker room and just say, "Okay, there's a couple of things I'm not going to do," and then he ends up calling him in the ring.
Yeah, definitely see that. Yeah.
Just because the rush, the adrenaline, that crowd's going to be going nuts. So I think they'll end up just going all out in the thing, and it'll probably be something very, very special. But that's just my thought on the booking, though. Is like if Will wins, then it's kind of. It's 1-1, I guess, and you can always just do a third one later, and that would be great. I think the story's a little more interesting if Kenny gets it, but we'll see.
All right, Scott, what are your thoughts?
I think there's an interesting side of this that maybe not enough people are talking about, and that is Kenny Omega failing without Don Callis in his corner. Mm-hmm. I think that is a story point that Tony Khan would happily tell on his own show, because as we've talked about this entire show, Tony Khan is booking for AEW, and if he can put some cool matches on along the way, so be it. I have been in the camp that Will Ospreay wins. I am not swerving away from that because, one, I don't know if or when Kenny gets back to Japan.
Yeah.
And Kenny has this massive feud to work with through Blackpool Combat Club and Konosuke Takeshita that I think, and I don't think Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega is happening at All In. I never have thought that was happening at All In.
I don't know.
So I think a third match can happen somewhere down the road, but there doesn't need to be a title involved either.
I suppose not. And the other thing is, Callis will almost certainly be involved in this somehow.
Oh, I mean,
they've been hinting at the idea that he's going to manage Will and all that.
I will let Jeremy give her. Well, if you're, can you?
I know what Jeremy's idea is, and if Jeremy's idea, and you know who shows up, then I'm all with him. But I'm going to assume he's not even in the picture. Just because I'm looking at Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay, I'm thinking about the Don Callis aspect here. Him failing continues Kenny's story, and Ospreay takes over. There was also people thinking Don Callis is going to join United Empire once upon a time. I don't think that's happening, but
so you're just going to push Gideon Gray out of the way.
I guess
He's been gone for a while already. I don't know what happened to that.
My big prediction will be boldly. This won't be the match of the night, but it will be better than their first match.
That's my bold. That is a hot
pigeonholed in a very high.
Oh place. Yeah,
that is a very bold, very hot take.
Had to have a hot take.
I'm glad you did. All right, Jeremy, what do you got here?
All right, so I think Will Ospreay's fine. I think a lot of his load management going into this match has been making sure that he is able to do it. The spots that he's been doing on Dynamite, the tune-up match that he had on Rampage, that kind of thing. I think he's not 100%, but I think he's able to go. And I think that there's a blue area of the health grid that he is firmly existing in. Now, as for the match itself, I think Kenny Omega wins this. And I also do not believe that Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay have another singles match in 2023.
Oh, wow.
That is my take on this. Now, my theory is this, and it is all predicated out of the end of Double or Nothing when Kenny Omega sat in the ring afterwards and talked about needing to go to Japan to talk to some friends.
Yes.
Now, Okada and Ibushi were the two names most bandied about when
Okada
that happened.
That's who obviously Ibushi was the most, but Okada is who I thought he was recruiting.
And now Okada has come to New Japan Pro Wrestling independent of any poking or prodding of Kenny Omega, which presumably would take him out of whatever conversation that was.
Okay.
That leads to the next pay-per-view on the calendar, which is Forbidden Door. Don Callis has already approached Will Ospreay and let him know that he's going to have security and make sure that he's safe and all this stuff. And Will Ospreay and all these big shows already comes out with his cadre of United Empire stablemates.
Yeah, because there's 90 of them.
Him in this huge production.
Yeah.
You have to imagine with a bunch of them already there that that's probably going to happen if nothing else.
Okay.
So to me, that sets up a scenario for one Kota Ibushi to show up and be the security / the second cornering Kenny in the main event or in the semi-main event tonight, being Tony Khan's big, ace in the hole reveal that he loves to do on these shows. Kota Ibushi was chatty as hell on social media up until the beginning of June, and then all of a sudden he's gone radio silent. There's a lot to this that you can look at and say, hey, maybe you want to get your expectations high, but this is one of those moments where it's like, you might want to get your expectations high. This could really happen. And if it happens, all in could be a tag of Konosuke Takeshita and Will Ospreay versus Lovers, leading to an all-out tag match of Konosuke versus Kenny Omega to blow off their inevitable match.
Yeah, I could definitely see that because originally, like Mel and I, this was Mel's thought, and then like the more we talked about it, I kind of thought it, but now seeing the whole bigger picture, maybe this is not where they were going. We were thinking Kenny wins here. They somehow get to a third match at Wembley. Again, we're not sure how that happens. If he's already lost to him twice, but that Will gets the big win in front of his hometown crowd. He gets the title, but then there's the G. It's how do you get to that match in the G1? And there's so many other factors that play that now I can see why that might not be where that goes. But that had been my thought as well.
Here's
and
the
then
last
Brad
part.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Last
Please
part.
do.
No one has talked about the idea that there might be a second show in the UK next year that could be just as big or better with Will actually as a contracted member of AEW.
Yeah, because his contract is up at the end of this year, correct? Or well, in January.
Those are all hypotheticals that you could keep in mind.
No,
they're why fair. You save that for a different time.
Okay. And so Brad kind of said something similar to what you said, that his belief is that Ibushi is going to be dressed as one of Will's special security guards and he saves Kenny from a post-match beatdown.
That's one way to do it.
And then he also had some thoughts. Let me go back down here to where he was talking about this. He thinks so Brad says, I think I'm more interested to see what happens post-match. Besides my Ibushi idea, something with Callis could happen, which is kind of what you guys were alluding to, that Callis.
I understand, but I'm pretty interested in the match.
I am pretty interested in the match, but I'm interested in the whole story.
To the sugary diabetes treat that we're getting.
I know what Brad meant. Brad's a real smart guy. I understand what he meant there, but
there's going to be a lot happening tonight when it comes to the.
And Brad also says that he thinks Okada winning the next match could mean that means that Will loses here. I can't see one company taking both huge matches.
Another fair point.
That's definitely fair. So we'll go ahead and get right into this. So the dream match that most people have had, or maybe they didn't realize that they had until this match was announced. We finally are getting Bryan Danielson, who could not be on the card last year. We're getting him versus Kazuchika Okada. Okada does not have a title. Okada has a beef with 900 other people. He is mad at everybody. He wants to. I really love this version of Okada.
He's so great.
He's so much fun.
Damn kids these days.
Yeah, he's having so much fun. He just wants to beat people up. I love this.
He has no patience for bullshit.
No, he zero. Yeah, his patience is gone. It went with the title. We lost that title. His patience went with it.
He was even before like the G1.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Like, it's so interesting that the hints that they dropped when he won the G1 and refused to defend the G1 briefcase or whatever he did.
That's right.
And so they were planting the seeds that it's like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I have proven everything that I need to do. You come at me, and it's just like, this has been late for a while.
I'm telling you, his wife had that baby, and he hasn't slept 3 hours since, and he's busy.
This did not come out of nowhere with Okada. This has been going on ever since he lost the title to Jay White at Dominion last year. Like, that was the paradigm shift, and they decided, okay, he's going to do his Inoki thing, and once we celebrate Inoki, he's going to be the guy that's like, yeah, I am the second coming of Inoki. Get away from me. I am that great. Why are you even trying? So they've taken it to a whole new level.
Yeah, I love what they're doing here. Scott, what are your thoughts on this match, and who do you think picks up the win here?
Oh, I think Okada definitely beats Bryan Danielson. That for me is not the question. The question is, how high can we go? We have
8 stars.
That's the conversation, right? If it's anything below 6, it's an upset.
That was such a dialogue.
It can't be. We're not in the Tokyo Dome.
I know that will be what they say if it happens that way. In all seriousness, I think this is the best Kazuchika Okada has ever been, and I'm talking about an Observer Hall of Famer, a guy that has the IWGP Heavyweight Title reign, of course. You know, that features the all-timer matches with Omega, plus the Shibata match, plus all these other matches that we could go on and about. And I think he's now the best he's ever been, and he's going as Bryan Danielson into the desert to face the guy that many believe to be the greatest of all time here in America. It's debatably GOAT versus GOAT, best in the world versus best in the world. Sorry, CM Punk. It is everything a dream match is supposed to be. 7 years ago wasn't possible. Bryan Danielson was retired, and 3 years ago he was in WWE. Wasn't possible. This is the dream match of dream matches. It should be your main event. It's as big as it gets, and I can't wait. It's as excited I've been for a match, at least a men's match, ever. Not even just overall, ever. This is it.
It's very well said. There is an aura to this that is very, very rare in this business, specifically because what Scott mentioned, there was a long time we thought this was impossible.
Right.
Not just that if only the companies worked together. We didn't know if Danny was ever going to wrestle. Danielson was ever going to wrestle again.
Yep.
Just didn't think we were ever going to get this. And the other thing I keep going back to as far as who wins it is I go back to, I believe it was a Colt Cabana podcast. It was years ago that Danielson did, where he talked about how his favorite thing in wrestling is to have a great match and put somebody over at the end. It's what he gets the most satisfaction from, is that putting somebody over in a big, building something perfectly and then putting them over in a big moment. He said it was his favorite thing in wrestling. There will never be a better opportunity to do that than right here.
There are no more insights. There are no more Easter eggs. There are no more small facts that people can dig up about Bryan Danielson and Kazuchika Okada that will make this matchup more fascinating, more interesting, more anticipated, or more electrifying than it already is. We are all at maximum saturation for this thing.
Sure.
We never thought it was going to happen prior to the results of Dominion this past month.
Sure.
And so the fact that we're here, the fact that we're all talking about it, coalescing and thinking, who's going to win? Bryan Danielson or Kazuchika Okada in a one-on-one match. Sometimes I like to say we're in the worst timeline, but right now it feels like we're in the best timeline, and I want to just indulge that.
Yeah, and that just brings me back to sometimes pro wrestling is magic. And I think this is one of those moments that and sometimes it's just moments like, and things like that. But I think this is a match that is magic. And I think no matter what star rating it gets, I personally don't care about star rating. It does not matter to me. I hope it gets a lot, but it does not affect
People will
care
turn
less.
on Dave before they turn on the star rating. They'll blame him for an incorrect star rating
Right.
before they blame the match for
So,
not hitting that point.
with this match having with this match having such high expectations, and I think they will meet them, I think they will exceed them. Does this matchup happen again down the road? Do we get this at a Wrestle Kingdom? Does it happen? Do we get it? Do we get Okada Danielson 2 at Forbidden Door 2024 or Forbidden Door 3? Or is this just a once in a lifetime moment? We get this and this is it, or do we get at this again?
They could have done the once in a lifetime moniker, and I would have believed it. I don't think this ever happens again. I also don't think Bryan Danielson wrestles for a few months after this, because I think he's going to put his body through hell in this match. We already know he's banged up.
It's definitely not getting definitely a good reason he didn't go to G1 this year. His body couldn't have handled a G1 after this, I don't think. And like you said, he is banged up. And because originally I thought they were not putting him on TV, because I thought they were protecting him so that he could not get injured before the Okada match. And they were trying to just put him in a bubble wrap, and they're like, we'll put him on commentary. And then it comes out that he is banged up. And so,
Frankly speaking, I don't know how many more matches Bryan Danielson has left in the tank to put another top caliber Kazuchika Okada match in there, as much as everyone is going to want to see it. Mm-hmm. Like, he's not a young man anymore, and there are other matches and other accomplishments, and if he gets this one, he's going to move on to the next big thing that he wants to check off his list.
Yeah, I think he will save himself and try to get into the G1 next year, because I think he wants to do the G1 before he retires. I think it's what's going to happen.
I want my Ishii versus Danielson.
Oh, man. And Steven, what do you think? Do you think this match ever happens again, or do you think this is a literal once-in-a-lifetime match?
I think it's once in a lifetime. I don't think anybody has any John Cena Rock type plans for this. Well, I mean, they said once in a lifetime, and they knew they were going to do it the following years. But,
yeah, that was like a trilogy.
I think this is, for the reasons they said, you can't be sure that Danielson's going to be able to do this again. Sure. You can't be sure that they're ever going to be able to get these two guys back in the same place at the same time again. Totally sure. So I think you just put it all out there the one time. And Danielson only has so many dream matches left, and there are others. If he's going to work for New Japan again, there's Naito. There's there are a bunch. Yeah, Ospreay.
That's the one he said he wanted.
Yeah, there's a whole all the leaders.
One day.
So Danielson's just going to go on a dream match tour, it sounds like. Which he should.
It makes more sense. It makes more sense for him to do the dream match route than a G1 route, where you're putting yourself through hell for 3 straight weeks. You can do these in quarterly, or every 6 months or something, and save yourself a little bit. And I think that's a better use of Danielson. The guy, my dream guy for the G1 is Claudio. I think he's perfect for a G1.
Over the next 3 years, if he has 15 high caliber singles matches over pay-per-views or big events, that is incredibly optimistic. But also, once you start knocking names off that list, it becomes a very small list, and there aren't a whole lot of opportunities for like repeat visits here. Like the next 3 years.
That's fair. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, he needs to do it. So I think it's once, and I think it's going to be incredible.
Okay, I have a couple more questions before we get out of here. So, what do you think is the sleeper match on this card? Scott, I'll start with you.
The 10-man. I think that's just going to be bananas for every minute. The Blackpool Combat Club, I think, is the best at maximizing their minutes within a multi-man setting. You saw it at Dominion. That was one of the best trios matches in New Japan history. That's one of the best trios, maybe the best trios match of the year, probably is. So I firmly believe those 10 guys are just going to go out there and put on a show. And if it was on any other pay-per-view that didn't have these 2 main events, could be the match of the night on any other show.
Okay, Jeremy, what do you think is going to be the sleeper match of the year?
With the full card now, well, it could be of the year. Who knows? Sleeper match of the night. Given that the full card is now revealed, I'm going to say is that United Empire versus LIJ 6-man match. I think is going to surprise a lot of people and really just impress them, because that is heart and soul of New Japan, kind of.
Yeah.
Everybody in that thing is just, they're working shows every night in New Japan.
Yeah.
Feels like.
Right. Steven, what about you?
I'm going with because of the crowd heat, because of the certain situation, the timing of everything, and the two people involved. I think CM Punk and Katoshi Kojima are going to surprise a lot of people on how good that match is.
Yeah. Do you think anybody? I was wondering this too. I wonder, I guess it just depends on the match. Is anybody going to have a Clark Connors moment? Last year, Clark Connors came into that match, wasn't supposed to be in it. He impressed the hell out of everybody. Mel and I had been on the Clark Connors train already from the strong stuff, but then he just showed out. So do we see a kind of a star-making moment from somebody tonight?
You know, has a good shot, or at least is in a position to do so, is Garcia in there with Orange, Zach, and Shibata. I mean, if he comes through and shines in that match, could change things for him a little bit for the better. And he's already good, and he's already thought of. But Garcia's in an interesting part here, where if you can kind of steal that match, you're setting yourself up for something special later.
Definitely.
I think El Phantasmo has a shot to impress some people. Tom Lawler has a shot to impress some people. But I think El Desperado is definitely a guy that is going to have an opportunity to do some stuff against the Mogul Embassy and have an opportunity. He's got some matches coming up with John Moxley that are going to be batshit insane. So they're going to do everything in their power to protect him going forward in this match.
Yeah.
I would say Filthy Tom. You give them enough time, I think Filthy Tom can have a big time showing in one of his biggest matches ever. I mean, whether it goes 10 minutes or less, it's still one of his biggest matches ever, and I know Filthy Tom's going out there to kill it.
Yes, and before we go, Daza wants to know, Scott, quickly in one sentence, what was the Stardom show like?
Phenomenal. I gave you one word. I didn't give you a sentence.
A transcendent experience, Scott?
It was beautiful storytelling in a main event that over-delivered in every way. You put 12 people in a cage, you don't know what's going to happen, but they delivered. There's a reason they had a pay-per-view today, and they couldn't be a part of this, and they made sure to deliver on that.
I'll tell you, there's a woman that not everybody in the United States, North America may have heard of, who they will, because eventually Mariah May is going to be a star in either AEW or WWE, and she is a revelation, absolutely a revelation.
Only a matter of time.
I'm a little familiar with her work, but I've seen some tweets about her, and people sounds like she's doing a phenomenal job in Japan.
Lisa Gifford of the Fight Game Media community is actually friends with Mariah May and is constantly cheering her on from the Discord.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, I will let you each plug where to find you, what you're doing this week. So we'll start with you, Steven.
Okay, well, we will be on with Speaking of Strong Style Tuesday, 5:15 Eastern Time with Mel Gray, from giving her impressions of the live show here. We're on there every Tuesday, 5:15 p.m. Jeremy and I, Speaking of Strong Style, covering the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling.
All right, Jeremy.
So if you want to catch where I've been this week, I was on the Boom last week. We did our Speaking of Strong Style show on Tuesday. On Friday night, I, along with Scott Edwards, joined Mon Capitan Garrett Gonzalez for a Fight Game Pod Extra, where we speculated on stuff like Naito being announced as the partner, followed by a potential LIJ match immediately announced after. So if you want some interesting speculation that seemed to be on the money, join us for that one on the content of the YouTube. Steven and I will also be on the Boom tomorrow night, I believe, or dropping on Tuesday, reviewing the show because we haven't talked about it enough. And then we'll be bringing on some Powerbombshells ourselves on Tuesday, and my world tour of podcasting this week will hilariously and exhaustingly be done. Everyone can be done with me, and you can just find me at Jer Firestone at Twitter, where I don't do anything at all other than just BS. Oh, also, I did the rap with WWE coverage last night. That'll be dropping on Monday because I didn't talk enough wrestling this week. It was fun. I've had a great time. Now I just want to go watch the wrestling.
Finestone Media Network.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, right.
My goodness.
All right, Scott, what you got for us?
Yeah, follow me at Scotty Wrestling on Twitter. You won't hear me on any of the network reviewing this show, so tough if you want to hear my thoughts on it. But you will hear me reviewing previewing the 5-star Grand Prix later this month on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel. That's annual. I do that every year. It is the premier women's tournament of professional wrestling. There's nothing like it. It's exactly like the G1, except better because it's 2 blocks. Oh, sorry, did I say that out loud? You can get me reviewing Stardom Sunshine 2023. That will be up on the Patreon and in some form on the YouTube channel, I'm sure, this week in bits and pieces. Thank you, Jeremy, in advance. And then next Monday at 5:30, I'm live reviewing Midsummer Champions 2023 as Stardom has to go on pay-per-view again, and it will be another big show. There's a lot. I'm doing a lot this upcoming month. It's tournament season in Japan. You guys know it's this is only the beginning. That's the scary part. It's only the beginning.
Yeah.
So make sure to check out the 5-star Joshi
Buckle
show.
up, Buttercup.
Yes. So make sure that if you're not already, to please check out Fight Game Media Network on Patreon. It's just $5 a month. There's some incredible stuff over there. And then also,
Sam, where can they find you?
Right here. They can find me on the YouTube, but you can find me at Powerbombshells on Instagram and Twitter. Now Mel is now more involved, so it's not just me running that side of things. You can follow me on Twitter. I will probably be live tweeting tonight because it's what I do. So it's Samantha_1713. But definitely make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, because tonight, right after Forbidden Door, we've got more coverage for you as Gigi and Paul Fontaine are going to go live with their reactions. It'll be going up against the Scrum. Who knows what'll happen over there with the Scrum? It's been pretty tame lately, but we're gonna have all those people in the building at the same time. Maybe one.
You never know how many times Will Ospreay's gonna tell you, bruv, I'm bleeding all over the place.
Yes, exactly. So thank you guys for everybody for hanging with us today, and I appreciate you guys coming in to help me fill in with Mel, so I did not talk to myself for almost 3 hours. So
wow.
Yes, thank you guys so much for coming, and we will see everybody. Mel will be back next week. I know she will be on your show, but Mel will also come next week to tell us about some of her experiences being at Collision and Forbidden Door. So make sure you join us next Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, and happy Forbidden Door, everybody.